Mute your TV. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the 2026 NBA Draft, where Adam Silver has an amount.
2026 NBA Draft, the Washington Wizards select Anise Dabonsa Jr. from Brigham Young University.
Well, we barely caught that one. Whoa! We
Talk about a
barely caught
buzzer
that
beater
one.
right there.
Wow. Well, everybody, welcome to the 2026 NBA Draft. A little more formal here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Forever Green Sports Podcast.
I just ran into the door where, talk about a buzzer beater. I literally just ran into the door. Right now we're doing a new setup right now. Now I have to look like this to see what's going on over here, see how many lovely viewers we have. But now I can have a direct reaction for you all for each pick as we see AJ Dabonsa, the projected number 1 pick, go off the board to the Washington Wizards officially.
Which we got to take a second here as AJ Dabonsa walks up on stage and collects his Wizards hat as he now is officially off to Washington. It was rumored beforehand that Washington, this would be the selection and they would pick Dabonsa, but now it is official. AJ Dabonsa, the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA Draft to the Washington Wizards. And I just gotta, now the memory of AJ Dabonsa, I gotta say, partially with this draft. So a little backstory on why there was so much craziness at the beginning of this live stream. I'm waiting in here, and initially there was a technical difficulty with the one-man graphic. So I'm trying to put that together behind the scenes. And then Franco, of course, was going to be in here a little bit late, but he got in here right on time. And right at the last second, I'm going, here's the one man. Oh, nope, Franco, here he is. And it's like, throw him up. All right, hit live. Go. Adam Silver's going up on stage. Next time, I'm sure we'll have that.
Adam Silver to the microphone today.
We were, yeah, and good thing my TV's behind here because I heard it on your end first, and I go, wait, it hasn't come up on mine, so we still have time to give this out. But hello and welcome, everybody, to the Forever Green Sports Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Mr. Nick Franco. And we are, of course, covering the 2026 NBA Draft. And we started out a little frantic there, but we're back for the number 2 overall pick, in which, let's face it, I thought the number 1 overall pick in AJ Dabonsa, we knew that was on the way. But now number 2, it's unclear who's going to go at number 2. Yeah, unless we have some updates from the internet right now, which we have the latest on the Celtics and Jaylen Brown on ESPN's draft show via Shams Charania. So we'll have to get an update on that later. But right now, the Utah Jazz are on the clock. 2 minutes left for the Utah Jazz. And I'm hearing now on the internet, we have multiple sources telling us the Utah Jazz will be selecting Darren Peterson with the number 2 overall pick. So we're suspecting that's going to come up. We don't, Adam Silver hasn't announced it yet, but
I have pickers in on my screen as they interview Dabonsa.
You got to pause yours for maybe 20 seconds if you could possibly do that. I'm still at 128, 127, 126. Whew, gotta settle in here. I feel like it's a big ball game right now. Gotta settle in. I'm a little frazzled because Dabonsa number 1 overall. So AJ Dabonsa, to me, he wasn't the consensus number 1 overall pick, but I thought he should have been the consensus given the field. And yes, there were 2 other, and let's say 3 other great prospects in Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and of course Caleb Wilson. But AJ Dabonsa gives you everything you want in a franchise player. He plays both ends of the floor. He's a great scorer on the offensive end of the floor, and defensively, he's going to give you a versatile look on that end. And overall, but AJ Dabonsa, he just gives you everything that you want as a basketball franchise, from the personality perspective to the offensive end to the defensive end. AJ Dabonsa is just an overall player, and it's understandable the Wizards would go with him at number one. And this is no shot to Zachary Reese-Sachet, but AJ DeBonce is on another level when it comes to a potential number one overall pick and what he could turn into. And if we were to give out player comps, there's two easy comps sitting there on the Celtics roster: Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That would be the ideal mold and scenario you'd hope for AJ DeBonce in his NBA careers to turn into a player like Jason Tatum or even Jaylen Brown later on down the line. So AJ DeBonce, you can't. I mean, yes, you can go wrong with the number one overall pick, but AJ DeBonce, I feel as if the Wizards went in the right direction, especially given the roster of the Wizards. You have Anthony Davis, Trae Young, a couple of other great forwards there as well in terms of the young Ford cast. And now AJ DeBonce is going to highlight that group and really bring them to the next level if one were to project out. So yeah, the Wizards right now, if you're looking at their starting lineup, you have Trae Young at the point, Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr in the front court, Trey Johnson starting at the 2, and AJ DeBonce at the 3. That's a pretty good lineup going forward. And you could even say other guys, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, they're going to have a say in the Wizards'
Keyshawn
future.
George. I mean,
Keyshawn George, Will Riley, who they drafted last year, who we really haven't talked much about, and even let's give a shout out to, I guess, Cam Whitmore, Jaden Hardy, and D'Angelo Russell. Now D'Angelo Russell is just there because of his contract, but Jaden Hardy and Cam Whitmore, those are the boom or bust. Maybe we could get something out of these players, but now Washington building. Oh, I missed the pick. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
I was babbling on about AJ DeBonce here. We already gave out the pick earlier in Darren Peterson, but see, this is
Do we want to refrain from reading the tweets before they come out and allow Adam Silver to do his job, or do we take the information as we receive it?
We'll let Adam Silver do his job. We can see the tweets. We'll go okay, and we'll prepare ourselves mentally, like, okay, this is the pick that's coming up. But yeah, we'll let Adam Silver do his job. Sorry, folks, I totally baffed on that one. But hey, but we gave that one out.
Yes.
Via the tweets. So what can you say?
Yep, Darren Peterson. I mean, he was the The Utah Jazz have walked away with the 2. If you wanted to really define Darren Peterson and I think of Darren Peterson and Ace Bailey as like the modern day NFL wide receiver. Absolute divas who are just trying to flood an ego that was trying to avoid from the inevitable of landing in Utah. However, they are now in a position that they should be able to make the best out of. I mean, looking at their starting lineup of Keontae George, now Darren Peterson, Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, and Jaren Jackson Jr., once again, another great lineup that has been produced within these top 2 picks and 2 teams that could move up drastically within the standings of each of their respective conferences.
I think this pick for the Jazz, what I looked at within this scenario, so the Jazz, on one hand, I believe Cam Boozer was the better prospect than Darren Peterson from a personality perspective, from an all-around perspective of what he could do on both ends of the floor and even offensively, where you could actually slot him into a team. I thought Cam Boozer was the better prospect, but if you're looking at it for the Jazz, there was a little bit of a possible overlap that were to, and there were conflict of interest ultimately. If you think about this, Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr., they're already there on the Jazz roster. Next year, the Jazz are going to be better. They're going to try and compete in the Western Conference. They don't have their pick next year, so there's no reason to tank for the Jazz. They're going all in here to potentially build their roster and win titles. That's the end of the goal. But that's the goal at the end. But the Jazz, there was a conflict of interest potentially here within drafting Cam Boozer. If they drafted Cam Boozer, you have Jaren Jackson Jr. sitting there. You have Lauri Markkanen sitting there. There's a lot of redundancy.
Walker Kessler under Kessler's under a restricted free agent tag.
Which we still don't know what's going to happen with that, which it's rumored he's been offered a contract that he's not taken yet. And if he were if he were happy with that deal, he would have taken it already. But you have all these front court players for the Jazz. If you add another front court guy, there could be some redundancy there, some questions moving forward, specifically with the veterans. And how they impact Cam Boozer's development. So you had a conflict of interest. Now, people say, oh, there's a conflict of interest within Darren Peterson and Keontae George, but we've seen before. I mean, look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They moved off Deion Waiters, Colin Sexton, now Darius Garland when they had better guards next to those guards. And those guard pairings we all knew, Kyrie Irving and Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, then eventually Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Those pairings were redundant. The Cavs were able to move off those other guards and retain some of their value on the roster by shipping them in deals elsewhere for certain draft packages. But that's the thing here at the Jazz. It's going to be much easier as Shams is talking. Every time you see Shams talking on the TV, you're like, okay, what's going on right now?
He is reporting that Darren Peterson met with the Utah Jazz this weekend, sharing his desires of making the Utah Jazz better and allowing the Utah Jazz to make the next leap. So that means that he figured out that he wasn't going to be the number one pick and he didn't want to drop down any further.
Which does matter from a salary perspective. As you go on down the first round, you do lose a little bit of salary over time. And so these players, that's why it was surprising Ace Bailey wanted to drop last year out of Utah. Well, not out of Utah's grasp, but remember it was Philly's grasp at the time, down to Utah. But the conclusion here, before we move on, because eventually the Grizzlies are going to select at number 3 here, but it's easier for the Jazz to move off a guy like Keontae George and fit in Darren Peterson and develop him, or even develop those two guys alongside of each other next to the front court they have right now, versus if you bring in Cam Boozer, there's a lot of front court bodies and there's a lot of questions as to what that actually looks like moving forward. I don't want to say Darren Peterson was a selection for fit, because we all know how talented Darren Peterson is, but there probably was a little bit of consideration within fit going into that pick. One more thing on Darren Peterson. I'm not sold on Darren Peterson as a prospect from the standpoint of, or as a star rather, from the standpoint of his personality. To me, just doesn't seem like a personality that's going to thrive in an NBA setting where it's just war.
I believe that you have a selection coming up.
Here we go. Adam Silver.
With the 3rd pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Cameron Boozer from Duke University.
I'll keep my TV a couple of seconds ahead so I can get those good timings. But that one, I mean, I knew Cameron Boozer was the top 3 talent. I'm shocked with Memphis going with it. However, Memphis is kind of in a position right now where they can really flatten out their roster and there's no really core pieces. I mean, you can consider Edie, Aldama, I mean, Jaden Wells and not Colin Coward, but Cedric Coward are a few young pieces that could end up amounting to something, but nothing really to base off of. But bringing in Cam Boozer, that's a instant replacement for what they're looking for in Jaren Jackson Jr. And unfortunately, what happened with Brandon Clark Jr. earlier this Brandon Clark this offseason. But yeah, this is a great fill-in and a great player that could potentially end up being the face of the franchise in Memphis moving forward as they look to move off of John Morant.
For me, Cam Boozer, he is an overall prospect. And I think, part of the evaluation process within the draft for all these players, I think what's important is projecting out what these players are really supposed to be in the NBA. And what I see Cam Boozer as is probably a good 2 or 3, and not to say 2 or 3 in terms of the positions on floor, but 2 or 3 in terms of your best guys on your roster, your second or third best guy. Is there a possibility Cam Boozer can become the Grizzlies' best player? Sure. But at the same time, I think he is going to be a player that is going to be a complementary star to even better stars. And that's not to say that's a bad pick at all or a bad player. No, that's an amazing pick for the Memphis Grizzlies and a player that's going to make a lot of money in the NBA and going to make a lot of impact as well for the Memphis Grizzlies in the early portion of his career. Cam Boozer, if you really look at his overall game, he really is patient with the ball. He's smooth around the rim. He's got a nice touch defensively, has great size, fluidity. There's a lot of reasons why teams would love Cam Boozer and why he went number 3 here. If there were to be comps out there for Cam Boozer, I would say, people were talking about Kevin Love, early career Kevin Love. I like that comp for Cam Boozer. He reminds me a little bit of Boncaro, but I think he's a little bit smoother than Boncaro when it comes to his shot, actually making shots from deep. And even looking at some of the scoring around the rim, you could say, he's a little bit more seasoned at bringing those physical buckets down below the rim. But Cam Boozer, along with his brother and his father, Caden and Carlos, and his other brother and his mother as well in the draft room right now, talking to Lisa Salters as the NBA draft is well underway here. Chicago now on the clock at number 4. Now the Grizzlies have an interesting future in front of them. You'd have to think Ja Morant is likely moved this summer if you're looking at the Grizzlies situation, but it's not a guarantee. And all of a sudden you go, okay, Cam Boozer, Ja Morant, like we're basically with the Grizzlies right now. If you think about it, Cam Boozer replacing Jaren Jackson.
Oh, Wi-Fi. Let's see how it rides out. We lost him. Yeah, well, Cam Boozer fills in, and I think he really fills in what Memphis has always had to their team. You think back to Zach Randolph. They always have had a power forward that's capable of manning the paint, being able to be an interior threat while also expanding the floor and allowing for opportunities for their wings alongside them to create opportunities. But Memphis right now, man, it's a real shit show. I think moving forward with what they have with Ja Morant, and I'm not. I would be interested to see what type of assets they get in return. Probably going to be a few future picks and maybe some salary dump. I don't think that you're going to be seeing nearly the return that you saw for Giannis, as we are tuning into the Chicago Bulls locker room after they have made their selection, and we are awaiting for that to be announced by Adam Silver. But and here we are. I'll turn up the volume.
The internet was not friendly in that moment. But I would actually say maybe it was, because it actually gives me a chance to fix this ticker. For a while, I was thinking, oh man, there was going to be a scenario where I'm going to have to show the World Cup ticker. Like, we're going to have to go in on the World Cup here.
Yeah, and just probably walking onto stage for you now.
With the 4th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Chicago Bulls select Caleb Wilson from the University of North Carolina.
The top 4 consensus completely, yeah. Top 4 went in the consensus order.
I would say the top 4 for sure played out exactly how I thought it was going to play out, with no surprises.
Yeah.
DeBonsa, I thought, should have went 1. 2, I could see the conflict of interest with Peterson and Boozer, given the Jazz's roster makeup, with Peterson going 2, Boozer being the clear option at 3. He could have gone 1. People liked him at 1. And then Caleb Wilson at 4. You'd say this year's draft, I mean, Caleb Wilson was kind of you could add him into the potential number 1 pick category or consideration. Now he's going 4 here to the Bulls, but you could have had his name in there as well. And I think after 4, that's where there's right now after 4, this is where this draft gets interesting because at 5, we really have no idea what the Clippers are going to do. We don't know if they're going to go Acuff, Wagler. We don't know if they're going to move the pick. We don't know if we have Shams coming up here in a second to tell us what's up or what's with the news. We don't really know. The top 4, on the other hand, when exactly how one may project, and even within the odds market would have projected as well. So Caleb Wilson, 4 to the Bulls. I'm less of a Caleb Wilson fan than these. Well, actually, I'll state this. My top 4, definitively, DeBonsa, Boozer, Caleb Wilson, and then Darren Peterson.
Really?
I know Darren Peterson, extremely talented as a creator, as a scorer. He has the NBA size, the fluidity. But Darren Peterson, personality-wise, very dull personality. It's almost Kawhi Leonard-esque, but not really in a like Kawhi Leonard.
In a fun guy way.
Kawhi Leonard, right? He's more of I'm a fun guy. Darren Peterson seems more like a depressed guy. Just saying, and he didn't really have the drive. He didn't own the drive to play a full college season. What's gonna, you look at the NBA. Part of the problem with the NBA nowadays, all these guys sitting out, load management. What is the real motivation when you're making $40+ million a year as a star? And we see legacies. Sometimes guys don't care about their legacies as much as they really should, and that can be sometimes what separates the good from the great. Oftentimes, that's what separates the goods from the great, is that extra level, that extra gear of motivation. Darren Peterson at Kansas, did we see that? No, we didn't. If you ask Bill Self, if you took Bill Self into a room and took him off camera, off the record, and just asked him plainly, in conversation, what was your experience with Darren Peterson? I don't think he would have very good things to say outside of how talented he actually is as a basketball player. And that's what makes the evaluation so hard, is talent-wise, Darren Peterson is definitely a top talent in this draft. You watch him, you go, that could be a Tracy McGrady. That could be a Kobe, right? In terms of his level, in terms of his ability to score with the basketball. But his personality, you wonder, is that drive there? Is that motivation there? He blamed creatine and cramps for why he was sitting out these games, these big games, and randomly exiting games at times we saw on the basketball court. Like, I'm literally picturing it in my mind right now. All of the moments Darren Peterson, made the little gesture to Bill Self, and Bill Self kind of goes, like, what? Like, really? And then pulls him out of the game and you don't see him again. That's why Darren Peterson for me would be 4. But looking at these other prospects, Caleb Wilson, I think Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonsa, they all check the personality box for me. I don't see the same with Darren Peterson. But Caleb Wilson right here, super athletic, and people think he's going to be the next Giannis. I don't see that. I don't see to be the next Giannis, you really got to be a special prospect. And don't get me wrong, Caleb Wilson, very good prospect. But when you shoot 25% from 3, you really are relying on this guy to be just a downhill force around the rim. And I think Caleb Wilson, I just realized Caleb Wilson, Caleb Williams, both in Chicago, that could be a mix-up happening in the future. I thought I just mixed it up right there. I went, whoa, Caleb Wilson? I was like, whoa, timeout. Got it right, but just realized that. Also, Bears colors on the bottom here.
So the starting
maybe a certain Illinois prospect.
Starting lineup in Cleveland, obviously they have some salary cap to play around with as well. Also acquiring Nick Claxton last night. So right now their starting lineup is looking like Giddey, Trey Jones, or one of their guards. Obviously, this is all going to change.
I really do question that shooting. Like, if you have Giddey moving forward, if you have Caleb Wilson, I do question the shooting there a lot. Which the Clippers pick is coming up here, and I have no idea who's about to go. You have Giddey, Dillingham, I would say, is part of their future. Asenge, and now Caleb Wilson. There's really not much there with the Bulls that you're. No. I mean, it's really Giddey and Caleb Wilson, and maybe Asenge, who they drafted in the lottery last year, but he really didn't play at all for the Bulls last season. But I can't say right now. I question the shooting foundation, and here comes Adam Silver with the Clippers pick at number 5.
Send it back to the commissioner. With the 5th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the LA Clippers select Keaton Wagler from the University of Illinois.
I'm 4 for 5 right now. I don't know why I had Caleb Wilson filling in as a more versatile for Chicago, but 4 for 5 now. I thought Keaton Wagler to LA was a lot more of a safe bet than really any of the guards. Acuff, Brown Jr., Phylon. I'm blanking on another one right now off the top of my head, but I knew they were looking for someone that would be able to play more next to Garland and Matherin, and Keaton Wagler is really the only 2-3 you would consider in this first round. 6'5", 188 pounds, has a little bit more of that length and size that can be developed over time and possibly turned into a 2 or 3 in this league, and also bringing more versatility than most of the other players that are ranked in the top 10 moving forward.
And two things here. To conclude on the last point, the Bulls shooting foundation with Giddey and Caleb Wilson, I don't know where that's going to take the Bulls, but ultimately I would also say the Bulls don't have much to build around anyway, so you can't really worry about what you have and don't have when you just don't really have any players to build around. And secondly, we apologize for the random car horn going on outside of Franco's home right now.
I was hoping that wasn't bleeding through.
I'm just sitting here like, why is there a car horn? I'm like, is that?
Yeah, no, someone's probably getting robbed next door to my house.
You gotta like flip that window open and just, hey, knock it off.
I don't want to
my
yell.
Window open.
I don't want to yell at those neighbors. Those are.
Yeah, I know your neighbors are like that. All right, I just yelled. My window's open. I'm like, oh man, I hope my neighbors didn't
maybe they heard
that crazy stuff. But to talk about Keaton Wagler here at 5. This pick, pretty close to myself, as Keaton Wagler went to the University of Illinois, just 2.5 hours away from St. Louis, Missouri here. Keaton Wagler, as the season went on, I soured on him a little bit as a prospect. But I came back around within the last couple weeks or so, because as the season went along, when people were highlighting Keaton Wagler as a potential top 5 overall pick as he just went to the Clippers, and even if they at the time it was, could he be a top 10 pick, and eventually progressed into top 5, and I'm going, I just don't understand the star potential here for Keaton Wagler. I just don't understand it. There's not really a star component within his game that I saw when he played for Illinois. And specifically, what I thought of was in the biggest moments in crunch time, it wasn't give the ball to Keaton Wagler and just let him go. It wasn't just let Wagler cook. It just wasn't. That wasn't the case for Illinois. And I go, if he's not their main guy down the stretch, how is he going to turn into that guy in the NBA? It's very theoretical. It becomes very theoretical. But I was looking at it all wrong, because I'm trying to look at it from a high volume, high usage guard perspective of this guy's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to be scoring. He's going to be playmaking. He's going to do everything for your team. But that's not who Keaton Wagler is. Keaton Wagler could be a more Derek White-esque player, where he can play off the ball. He can shoot on the perimeter. He can handle the ball if you want him to, and he picks and chooses his spots. And then going even further, if you look at all the guards here, you look at Keaton Wagler, Mikael Brown, Darius Acuff, Kingston Flemings, Braden Burries rather. All those guards, Keaton Wagler has the best size. Now, not in terms of bulkiness and physicality, but just in terms of height. Wagler is a legit 6'6", 6'7", and he can handle the ball on the perimeter as a guard, and then defensively give you size on that end of the floor as well. So looking at the overall makeup of Keaton Wagler, I understand why he goes 5. And I would actually, as, again, time went along, I put him higher and higher in the rankings. I moved him up in the rankings simply because you look at some of these other guards, you question their size, their physicality, where they actually slot in, and what their actual ceiling is. Wagler, it feels as if he could be the third best guy on a championship team, like Derek White was a couple years ago with the Celtics, like, say, even Alex Caruso was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he's going to be better than Alex Caruso, but he's somebody who can fit in, pick his spots, handle the ball, and play on both ends of the floor. He's going to be a versatile player teams can slot in and feel good starting at the very least. And it makes sense why the Clippers went with him here at 5. He's the most versatile all-around guard out of all the potential guards. And what could be a guard run here in the next 4 or 5 picks? We could see guard after guard after guard going here in the NBA draft, with the Brooklyn Nets selecting at 6 next. But some of these other guards are a little more theoretical. I think Wagler, there's more upside in him becoming an all-around versatile, efficient guard that you'd want to see play on your basketball team if you are a contender. Here we go. Brooklyn Nets.
First surprise.
With the 6th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Brooklyn Nets select Michael Brown Jr. from the University of Louisville.
Of course, leave it up to the Brooklyn Nets to fumble a top 5.
How about that?
I mean, that. I don't see a world where I'm wrong about this one. Brooklyn effed up.
Who do you think they should have went with here?
Acuff. Acuff, 1,000%.
Well, you know what's crazy is Acuff, the Kings. Acuff falls to the Kings now, which.
I knew that Brooklyn, Sacramento, and Atlanta were going to be the run of Acuff, Brown Jr., and Flemings, but now the order is just going completely out of it. I had Mikel Brown going to Atlanta behind Acuff and Flemings because Acuff and Flemings are just much more dependable scorers. I understand that Mikel Brown might bring a little bit more versatility to your game and also a little bit more flexibility to your scheme. But when you're looking at being the Brooklyn Nets or the Sacramento Kings, you just need someone that's going to be able to put points on the board for you and also potentially be a cornerstone for your franchise moving forward. And Mikel Brown Jr., as you were saying with Keaton Wagler, you were saying that you don't see the start potential with him. I don't see the start potential with him.
I don't see the high volume start potential with Wagler, but I see the potential of becoming a Drew Holiday, Derek White type of a guard, a Malcolm Brogdon, where he's very complimentary to the best players and might be a third best player on a team. And he might be a guy where he's top 15 in win probability added and all these advanced metrics, but you don't see Wagler as this, like, whoa, this crazy high volume scoring guard who does everything like a Shea. I think he's going to be more like, again, the guys who are in the background of other stars, but ultimately bring efficiency to your basketball teams and saving possessions and complementing those other star players. But anyway.
Oh man, the Brooklyn Nets are just gonna Brooklyn Nets. And
I like Mikel Brown. I don't like. I question his size on the defensive end of the floor, but offensively, very smooth creator, can get his shot up. I think at the worst, he's a 6-man spark plug. I saw draft comps to CJ McCollum. People were comparing Mikel Brown to CJ McCollum, which I could see a little bit. And that's where I would, be a little bit concerned, because McCollum is really, within the last generation, one of the best scorers in the league, just from a pure bucket getter perspective. Say Mikel Brown, can he turn into that? Because say they're the same size, say they own the same defensive liabilities, is Mikael Brown going to make up enough for those defensive liabilities with his offensive game? I think he's going to be able to. I think at the very least, he's going to be a guy who can come off the bench. And that's where you could say, oh, yeah, you don't like this pick for Brooklyn at 6 because they could be picking a sixth man here instead of a legitimate starting guard and a star moving forward. But I like the upside with Mikael Brown and what I could see what he is in the NBA. I don't.
But
Do I
he's
believe he's
just,
going to be a star?
I can see
Not really.
I can see what he's going to be too, but and what he is going to be is not what the Brooklyn Nets need. The Brooklyn Nets need someone that can at least sell a jersey.
I don't think Mikael Brown could sell a jersey here.
I don't think I don't see Brown Jr. jerseys going out of stock in Brooklyn. Unfortunately, a cuff jersey. I think.
I mean,
Speaking
I
of the
don't know.
devil, next.
Here we go. The Kings likely going with Acuff here, and if Acuff does fall to the Kings,
Speaking.
just saying to get ahead of the analysis here. I'm not a huge fan of the Kings going with Acuff, but we'll see who they actually get.
With the 7th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Darius Acuff Jr. from the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, one with the Kings. The Kings are going to walk away happier than the Nets are. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, will they?
I wanted the Kings to take Kingston.
Why would they? I mean, the Nets have had the chance to draft Darius Acuff and didn't. So
they're going to be kicking their ass in the future.
I mean,
and that is the most Brooklyn thing in the world. I
like Acuff's upside more than Mikael Brown. You know, actually coming forward, like Acuff, Brown, comparing those two, it was a little hard, but I still like just from an eye test perspective, I believe in Acuff as the leader of your offense more. But then the problem with that is Mikael Brown, you could be picking him and he could slot in with a great team as maybe your sixth man, maybe a guy off the bench, maybe your second starting guard. But
Acuff is more of a Trae Young.
Right, like Acuff is going to run your team. And if he's not running your team, where does he slot in? He could be a Pritchard-esque player too, where you're just sitting there thinking, you know, he's going to come off the bench as a sixth-man spark plug scorer. And that's what I think, you know, some of these guards here, if you go down the list, I didn't mention Phylon earlier, but he's in this equation too. Which Tankathon has Phylon going 21st to the Pistons. That would be quite the drop for him. But these guards, I look at them, and that's why Wagler's at 5. That is why Wagler's at 5, because he'd be an all-around guard on both ends of the floor, owns a lot of size, legit 6'6" player, and
Wi-Fi is coming in a little choppy. No, you should be better. Oh.
Okay, I think we're good now.
Yep.
I think it was the battery here. Camera.
Yep, now we have nope, Atlanta
at 8, who was rumored to potentially move this pick.
Oh, they're doing a commercial break here. So, I mean, looking at next, I'm expecting it to be Kingston Fleming or Braden Berries. I think those two are alternative at this point, but I really wanted to see. I mean, if all of our fans want to go refer to the Instagram post that was recently released on Forever Green Sports Instagram. In my top 5 or top 10, I had it going Acuff, Flemings, Brown, and then Burries to Dallas. And for a lot of reasons, I thought that it was more because of pure value and that these guys would have been able to match up more. Michael Brown Jr. in Atlanta, let's say he was going to go right here, I think he would be able to fit more into what Atlanta's looking for, which is a versatile 6-man who can come in and play alongside other guards. And I mean, Fleming still kind of falls within that role, but I think that moving forward, it's all. It's going to be interesting to see where these players all fall in value and really how these teams value players, because knowing what these guys are going to become and potentially value-wise when it comes to even like developing them into your system, I think teams should be it almost feels like teams try to be too smart in the NBA draft, and honestly in every single draft, teams try to get way too cute with the picks, and when they avoid the consensus, they end up getting burned every single time.
Well, I think in this particular draft right here, as we have the updated ticker on the bottom, only took us 7 picks this year, folks, but here we go. So I think really you could say 5. I thought Wagler at 5. That makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. Just all around overall guard. I think that's a safe pick. And you could say, oh, well, he's not going to be this. Because I think you're really taking shots with some of these other guards. You're thinking, Mikel Brown, could he turn into a CJ McCollum-esque player? Darius Acuff, could he turn into a Jalen Brunson-esque player? You look at all these guards who are now going in the draft. You kind of look at them and say there's a theoretical upside of we want these guys to turn into stars versus Wagler. I don't see it as we want him to be a Curry or a Brunson or this high volume guard or whoever. Teams want him to be a Derek White. And so that makes sense at 5. And I wish I could come up with more names. I feel like I'm just spitballing the same names here. But ultimately, looking at the comparisons, the next couple guards, I don't want to say it's a crapshoot, but it is a little bit of a crapshoot. Because for me personally, there was a time period where I liked Mikel Brown over Darius Acuff. So in that moment, I'm thinking, this makes sense. Mikel Brown over Darius Acuff. Now I came around on Darius Acuff, and I just think he's got a little bit more of that NBA sauce than Mikel Brown, although both of them are just very, very talented offensive players. Although I think Acuff, there's a little bit more to his level of creation on the floor, finishing, some of the physicality, the playmaking, and then defensively, I would take the bet. And these two guys are the same size from a height perspective, but Acuff, we all know, is a little bulkier. He's a little bulkier from a physicality standpoint. So that's why I would lean Acuff over Mikel Brown. Now, that's not to say Mikel Brown. I still think, whoa.
Correct. Kingston Flemings from the University of Houston.
Yep, that was the given.
The first.
Sorry, Hawks. So Kingston Fleming's another one of these guards going to the Atlanta Hawks now. Now, there are some measurement concerns with him. Some small arms, just saying. Fleming's...
That is actually noticeable by him walking on stage. Looking at him shaking hands with Adam Silver, it looks like his arms are actually shorter than Adam Silver's. We got Will Campbell 2.0 in the NBA.
I that's quite possible here. that's where I just Kingston Flemings. That's where I question his upside.
Wonder what
First of
that,
all, with the
that
dreads,
doesn't
we all know
really.
he's got that Atlanta style. So he's going from Houston to Atlanta. I mean, he's got that Southern blood. But in terms of this pick, defensively, I like the upside for what Flemings gives teams. Offensively, I question where he fits in best, and that's where I just again with some of these guards, I do look at it and go, are some of these guards just mid-level starters or guys that come off your bench? It's completely possible, and I think that's what's going to happen here in this bottom half of the top 10, where you have Acuff, Mikael Brown, Kingston Flemings. What are the odds all these guards are going to hit? I think we're going to have some. I think we're going to have some variety in what we're actually going to see here. But Flemings, trying to think of who he reminds me of. Come up with a draft comp on the spot here for Flemings.
I wonder what I was just watching the way he played, and during my quick, very, I don't know if this is an accurate one, but I got Sean Livingston vibes from him.
Sean Livingston. You're gonna have to explain that one to me. I mean, I
the shorter arms. I mean, the defensive ability with the way he moves on the court. He's very shifty and very able to get to his mid-range shot. That's one thing I noticed. He's a very ISO heavy mid-shot selective player that can also play a 1 and 2 type of role.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm just looking at some of his game logs here. I mean, in terms of him as a guard, this is where I think the NBA is getting a little bit more efficient in looking at prospects and bringing in some of some players from college who own some advanced metrics that you look at and go, wow, okay, this meets the criteria for what you'd want to see in the NBA, and they're doing it in college. Because that's what I noticed last year, and looking at drafts in the past, there are a lot of theoretical guys who you don't see put up great advanced numbers in college, and teams still look at them and go, well, you can't look at all the numbers, you still got to look at the eye test, blah blah blah. Which you got to look at both
in the audience.
Got to look at both to come up with a conclusion, but ultimately, I think some of these guys, their metrics, like Kingston Flemings, you have a couple good numbers here that you like to see out of him in terms of some of the true shooting percentage, some of the offensive and defensive win shares. Like at 8, let's see here. At 8, would I have had Flemings? Let's see. I would have had Burries over Flemings. I would have had Nate Ament over Flemings. Would I have dropped him further than that? No. So Flemings at 8, to me, it makes a little bit of sense here. He goes in the range in which people were projecting him in. Goes to the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Hawks. So we didn't mention earlier that Clippers pick, of course, could have been the Pacers pick in this spot. So the Pacers could have came up with Keaton Wagler here, but instead it's the Clippers. But at 8, Atlanta traded for this pick last draft. They traded down from 13, which was Derek Queen.
Wow.
Asa Newell. So Asa Newell.
Wow.
It's Asa Newell and Kingston Flemings for Derek Queen.
Holy guacamole.
What do we got here?
Dusty May is already causing shit.
For a while. While they've made their selection here, let's send it to the commissioner.
Dusty May is starting shit already.
With the 9th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Morez Johnson Jr. from the University.
I had him projected as the 3rd best Michigan Wolverine on the board, and he is taken in the top 10 by Dusty May, who is just hired by the Dallas Mavericks to be the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, wow. I mean, that is not a good look. Not a good look. Not a good look whatsoever. If they thought Dallas was in a shithole when Luka was traded, welcome to purgatory. I mean, wow. You guys are in. Wow. Things are not getting better for you, Dallas. Things are when that 2024 matchup when you guys faced us and when you faced off with the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, that was that for a long time. Enjoy Cooper Flag while he lasts.
The Mavericks right here. What I don't understand is, I guess the owners of the Mavericks, Patrick Dumont, Miriam Adelson, do they just let people do whatever they want? Like, do they pay attention to the Mavericks at all in terms of who they're actually bringing in to do what? Like, do they have their hands on anything? Because you look at last year, you allowed Nico Harrison to convince you, or rather just go ahead and make the deal for Luka Doncic, or rather for Anthony Davis, right? So last year you have the whole Luka Doncic ordeal. Then you end up with Cooper Flag. You trade Anthony Davis to the Wizards, get back Chris Middleton and all this junk. You hire Dusty May, and now you're picking one of his players, 9th overall, who Morez Johnson Jr. used to be an Illini, used to be in Illinois, used to be an Illinois guy, transferred to Michigan, won the national championship with Michigan. But you hire Dusty May, and then you draft one of his players. Is this, and not only you fire Jason Kidd before that, and Jason Kidd was rumored to be a voice that was out on Luka Doncic and could have been in on, yeah, Luka Doncic, yeah, let's trade him for Anthony Davis. Let's get better defensively. Let's actually change the culture here. I just question the Mavericks' direction in terms of who they're allowing to do what. You let Nico Harrison make calls. You let Jason Kidd, of course, have a voice. Luka Doncic is gone. The next year you trade Anthony Davis. And then you hire Dusty May from Michigan, which to me, I even look at that hiring and I go, really? Because Dusty May, if you look at how he made his way up the ladder, he was at Florida Atlantic, took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four a couple of years ago. I believe that was 2023, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's hired at Michigan. Okay, he won a national championship at Michigan. He goes from Florida Atlantic, takes them to the Final Four, hired at Michigan, takes them to the Final Four, wins a national championship, and now the Dallas Mavericks go, that's our guy. I understand that you look at the resume and you go, that's a winning head coach. Like, he wins at every level. But the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks, they're just enamored with what's good lately. Oh, Dusty May, he won at Michigan, he won at Florida Atlantic. Sure, we'll hire him as the head coach, and not only that, we'll let him make a major decision.
Yeah,
his second day on the job.
He is
Morez Johnson.
I believe so far he's the only NBA head coach I have seen in this audience. So they made it a point to send him to Barclays Center tonight to be in the audience for that draft pick. They should be.
I will say, to be fair, a lot of Michigan players here, and they just won the Natty. So it's like Calipari being there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's.
Well, my thing is, okay, so they basically look, Dusty May, they're going out and getting winners. That's the whole Dallas Mavericks, bravada here is we're going out and getting a winning head coach at FAU, at Michigan.
The worst winner that was on that roster last year, or not the worst.
Which the Bucks are making their pick right now, I believe, here in a moment.
Oh man!
But well, it's just like on the second day of the job, first of all, how long was the whole Dusty May hiring official behind the scenes, which as my stream lags, so we might actually miss out on the Bucks pick here. Sorry, folks. Okay. Nope, we're back. So no, but you hire a guy who's won at the college level for specifically winning at the college level and thinking, well, he's going to translate this to the NBA level. And then you basically let him make a decision to draft Marez Johnson Jr. People are going to rightfully debate whether or not that was the best Michigan player, at the very least, to take in that spot. And you could even say Marez Johnson, that was higher than most people projected. Now, they're projecting around 15, so it's not that high. Like, it's not, Cam Johnson from years ago or Egor Demon from last year, or even Jan Hansen, where the Blazers and I don't remember what names I just said, but those teams are taking those players way higher than people really, really thought. Which, man, my mind is just all over the place right now. My goodness. Gotta lock in on this Bucks pick. We got a rumor here, too, that the Celtics might be interested in Miles Turner. It didn't just come out now, just earlier today. Just saying.
Why would
As the Bucks come up here.
Miles
The
Turner?
Warriors, per Jake Fisher, the Warriors are fielding offers for the number 11 pick per source. Why that seems significant? If Jake Fisher is reporting that as of 1 minute ago, and
The Milwaukee Bucks select Braden Burries from the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
After
I
helping
mean,
her.
my lord, they sat there and waited for it forever, and then it's like, oh, gonna sneak it past you.
Yeah.
Braden Burries, I like the upside of Braden Burries as a two-way player. I think he's going to be a definitive starter in the league. I don't know if he's going to be a star necessarily, but I could see him being a almost Josh Hart level player, but way more offensively skilled, like way more. And I think he's going to be able to play both ends of the floor. And that's why, okay, so if we were looking at the guards, to go back on the guard conversation and go away from the Mavericks now. So the slew of guards here, Wagler, Mikael Brown, Darius Acuff, Kingston Flemings, now Braden Burries, and you still have Phylon out there on the board. But out of all these guards, really the two that intrigued me the most as time went on was Wagler and Burries. Now, Wagler, again, I was a little sour on him most of the season, thinking, okay, is he just going to be a guy who I'm thinking like, where is his star potential, right? But I was thinking of it from a high volume scorer perspective and was not necessarily thinking about it from a fit in between the margins and save possessions type of a guy. But you look at all these guards, Wagler and Burries were the two that stood out to me. Then I had, Acuff and Brown sitting there, and then I had Flemings after those guys. And I would say I would even have Phylon maybe just next to Flemings there. So if you were to like pair these guards up, in my mind, Burries and Wagler, Brown and Acuff, and then Flemings and Phylon, like those would be the tiers of guards for me going down tier by tier. And the reason Burries is high on this board for me is his size. He's a legitimate 6'5". He's a little bulky at 6'5". Clearly has a lot of fluidity on the offensive end of the floor. Can score at multiple different levels. Good finisher. Great shooter. And then defensively, a lot of physicality on that end of the floor. And I think he has some nice quick feet too, and nice reactionary time that you really like at the NBA level and think will project well at the NBA level, especially for a guard who could be a nice two-way addition for any team out there. He reminds me a little bit of Desmond Bane. I think Desmond Bane was a little bit better of a shooter and defender coming out, which is saying something because Desmond Bane went 30th in the first round, and Braden Burries is going 10 here. But I think Burries has that kind of potential within his game to be a Desmond Bane type of player. That's what I see within him. And I think what's different about Burries and Bane would be Bane coming in. He was more of a three-point specialist, where I think Burries has a more well-rounded offensive arsenal. I think he's a better mid-range shooter, better finisher, just a little bit craftier with the ball in general, a little smoother with the ball than say Desmond Bain was, if you were to make that comp. But that's why I like Burries. I mean, for the Bucks, if you're starting a new era, new generation here as of last night, Braden Burries is a great first pick in my mind to start out with at pick number 10. And the Bucks are still coming up at 13, 2 picks away from now as well. So the Bucks will land 2 different players, which will make the total. That would be from last night, the Bucks trading Giannis. So of course they acquire 4 players in that deal. They acquire another pick, which would be number 13 coming up here. So once that selection will be made, that's 5 players the Bucks will add to their roster, plus this 10th overall pick. So since last night, the Bucks 6 players added to the roster and 6 legitimate rotation players as well. So give credit to the Bucks moving Giannis last night, because we all thought, they waited too long. Maybe you could have received better offers last off season with Dylan Harper, Amin Thompson, Şengün. Who knows which players were really on the table for Giannis? You could have received better offers last summer, but the one in which Milwaukee received from Miami gave up a haul, and give them credit because they really gutted Miami. And not only that, I think they made a great pick here at 10.
Yeah, I mean, now looking at their starting lineup on paper, it's Barry, Hero, Yaquez, if you want to say Kuzma or whoever else you want to throw in that.
I don't know what their roster is going to look like next year, but I think it's going to look
and then Turner,
a little wonky. It really does set up for. Remember when the Nets in 2023 randomly made the playoffs as a 6th seed because nobody could overtake them from what they did with KD and Kyrie? But once they traded KD and Kyrie, their roster was just a mess of forwards. It was Dorian Finney-Smith and all these other guys, and it's just like, what's going on here? That's what the Bucks are starting to feel like, where they're just accumulating assets all over the place. And I think there is a little bit more of a structure there with the Bucks than there was with the Nets when they moved off KD and Kyrie, but you can tell they're moving into that era of, we're going to be at the bottom of the league, we're going to retool. And there's still a question, though, of how much Milwaukee wants to bottom out next year. We went over it last night, they could be looking at next season going, can we just be better than the Pelicans, right? And even like you think about the draft lottery next year, you don't want to be a bottom 3 team. You want to be 4 through 10, most likely.
I still don't understand. I still don't understand how that average out works for the NBA and how rewarding the 4 through 10 teams with the better odds is any better. But I mean,
we have the Warriors up here.
Looking at what they're gonna have, I think Milwaukee is honestly in a much better position than Brooklyn was after the departure of Kyrie, Harden, and KD. But now looking at what they're putting together, I think there's still some moves, and obviously a lot of contracts. We don't know if Hero is still going to be there heading into next season. We don't know if Kuzma or Turner is going to be there. So that's around approximately $80 million in salary space that can still be reallocated elsewhere to other teams, or also even salary dumped. They could be looking to try to really clear out what they have in salary space. As Adam Silver walks out for me for this pick.
Right. Here we go. I think I'm a little behind, a little more behind now, because we had a couple of glitchy moments over here.
Yeah. All right.
So the Warriors.
Interesting pick by the Warriors.
Here we go.
When have went with this one? I would have taken the other Michigan guy.
Pick in the 2026 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Yaxel Lendeborg from the University of Michigan.
I would have won. I would have went bigger, and I would have went Mara. I would have went Mara if I were them.
This pick, it makes sense to me from the standpoint of Lindeborg is an older player. You'd expect he's going to come in right away and play minutes with the Warriors or any team he's drafted to, just because of his age, just because of his experience, and really just because of his entire well-rounded game. He is a player on the defensive end of the floor. There's some versatility there. There's some size offensively. There's some scoring ability with the ball, putting it on the floor. The finishing ability. You look at some of his shooting as well. Which, looking at his shooting numbers for this season, he was 37% from three, so very efficient shooter from beyond the arc. He checks a lot of boxes, and people are going to say, yeah, there's draft age, but for the Warriors, that's actually a positive. People are going to say, oh, well, he's not 18, he's not 19, he's a little older, which right now, to get the exact age of Yaxel Lindenborg, he is 23 and he's going to be 24 this year. So the Warriors are basically picking a 24-year-old here. He's the same age as us.
Hey, 23, 24, that's really young. Really young. We're not past our primes.
All right, but if you look at it, like if we went one and done, our draft class would have been 2022, which would have been Paulo Banchero's draft class, Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren that
Jeez.
year. And those guys are 4 years into the league now, already almost onto their Chet's going to be on his they're all going to be on their next contract next year. So Lindeborg, he's in that same age group, yet he's going to be a rookie. But if you're looking at any team on the list as to who that could be a positive for, it would be the Golden State Warriors. They want a more seasoned player, an older player, a more mature player who's going to come in and add to their roster of, let's face it, more mature players. I mean, look at their top four right now. You still have with the Warriors Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford. Those four players in general, they're all over the age of 35. We went over this last offseason, and if they're all on the roster, of course, by the time August rolls around in September, once again, it's going to be the same story. They're a team that's just old. And adding an older player here, he's going to come in, play minutes right away, and he's just going to bring that more mature personality and really routine. I would say, maturity within routine is important in the NBA and anything. Talking about anyone getting better at anything, but Lindeborg, his draft age, people would say that's a downside for most teams wanting to develop a player, say 18, 19, 20 years old. But Lindeborg's draft age of 23, going on 24 this year, makes sense for specifically the Golden State Warriors who want a more mature player in this spot.
Yeah,
Even Brandon Pajemski, like people, he's not necessarily a voice and a veteran. I mean, he's becoming a veteran for the Warriors, but he's meaned a little bit out there on the internet universe. But he was talking about the draft ahead of time, and somebody asked him, "Who do you think the Warriors should draft?" And he gave the answer plainly of somebody who can come in and play right away. Lindeborg is that player. You look at some of these other players on the list. If you draft say Karim Lopez, he might not be
I had him
a
going
player you
Mara.
can slot in right away if you're the Warriors.
I mean, but looking at the Warriors' rotation right now, Lindenborg kind of seems a little bit repetitive for what they already have in place. I mean, I would assume that this means Al Horford's out the door.
Why so?
I just see that room is going to be filling up. I think that looking over there, depending on what they do with Kristaps, Al Horford, and then I know they have Quentin Post, but he hasn't really excelled much. But what the Warriors have been really looking for over the past, since their last championship appearance, has been someone to rebound other than Draymond on their team. And Lindeborg might help alongside that, is actually probably a way of he might be the one that the Draymond ends up passing the torch down to, but I would have been looking for someone to be more of that solidified 5 slot rather than another forward.
So you think they should have gone with
Mara.
And I see that because for me, the Warriors' big position has just been. I mean, Porzingis is going to be there. I think the Warriors, what they're
Who
creating,
knows with
is a
Porzingis?
roster with a lot of size right now, for sure. Which, where are the Warriors here? Golden State.
And who knows what happens with Porzingis and Horford? Who knows? They might end up back in Boston. And I'm trying to remember. I believe they are both on player options, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you have so Porzingis is going to be a free agent,
UFA.
and Horford owns a player option, and so does Draymond Green, which OKC is up next. Which OKC adding another lottery
OKC,
pick
the
tonight.
rich get richer. 3rd year in a row with a lottery pick.
While contending for the title 3 years in a row as well. So,
And
well, with Golden State, with Lindenberg, I'm trying to figure out, where they utilize him the most. With the Warriors, I just look at it. I think Lindenberg, partially why they selected him. He's an older player. He's the same age as Gui Santos, who's already on their roster. And here we go. If we got
this
some lag
one's
behind the scenes here.
This one's pretty surprising.
The City Thunder select Adai Mara from Zaragoza, Spain, and the University of Michigan.
That doesn't make sense to me either. Last year you drafted Thomas Sorber, who's literally going to be a rookie free agent next year for the Thunder. He was a lottery. He was actually one of the number 1 centers heading into last year's draft, and you have him slip down the board, and he's going to be coming in next year. Hartenstein's on a club option, so that might be bad news for Isaiah Hartenstein. And then very questionable move right here for OKC. A lot of these teams, I'm really questioning the personnel they are drafting because they're adding more of what they already have. I mean, with the Warriors, Lindenberg is more of what they have. In OKC with rim protection, that's more of what they have. I am baffled that OKC isn't trying to make their wings and forwards bigger. I mean, right now they've been playing with 6'6" players playing at power forward. You have Lou Dort playing power forward for you. That is an issue. Like, I'm not a man who's good at math, but the bigger man usually gets the board. They should be drafting 3s and 4s, not more 5s. There is more positions in the NBA than guards and centers. OKC. I mean, you're gonna try to guard Victor Wembanyama for years to come, and you're not going to add more versatility to your roster to create more depth throughout all 5 positions, but you're gonna just stick to having bigs and guards. I'm having a tough time watching this NBA draft this year because a lot of the NBA GMs. This year's draft is actually frustrating me a lot more because I almost want to go around and strangle a lot of these GMs with the performance that has happened in this top 12.
Well, my immediate question with Oklahoma City after this pick, what is that $28.5 million player option, or rather, sorry, what is that $28.5 million team option for Isaiah Hartenstein going to look like? Because, look, this is what people don't, favorite draft, the annual, I'm wearing the hat of the team that I'm not going to coming up here at the 13th pick. But anyway, okay, so when people 2 years ago, or rather a year ago, when OKC won the title in 2025, people were going, this is going to be an unstoppable team moving into the future. This team has the chance to win the title the next couple years. Look at all their players, look at all their assets. They're so young. But the reality is, the young teams, you start paying players, and all of a sudden, you cannot roster a crazy, crazy, versatile, deep lineup the way in which OKC did in the 25 NBA Finals or even the 26 NBA season. You look at OKC's roster right now. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams specifically, last season, they combined to make a total of about $20 million between the two of them. Jalen Williams made $6.6 million and Chet Holmgren made $13.7. Next year, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, they'll make a combined $83 million between the two. 83 versus 20 last year. You are spending an extra $63 million on the same two players you already had on your roster last year if you're Oklahoma City, which we've already seen the ramifications of that. Trading away Aaron Wiggins, a legitimately good rotation player who didn't play minutes for OKC in the playoffs because there were so many good rotation players there for OKC. But Aaron Wiggins, he shipped off to Atlanta for 2 second-round picks. That's a pure salary dump. That's give us some of your lesser assets just to take on Aaron Wiggins. And that's how bad teams actually improve within the margins. Say a team like Atlanta, they have the cap space, they have the rotation space, a need for a forward, and they go, okay, we'll take on Aaron Wiggins and actually use him within our rotation, where OKC, they're cutting money, they're cutting salary, and they also know it doesn't fit into our rotation all the time. They move off Aaron Wiggins for nothing, basically. Nothing. But I wonder if that's now going to happen as well with Isaiah Hartenstein, if they're going to decline his team option. Maybe he leaves, goes elsewhere, or they sign him back to a lesser deal. But under that scenario, OKC, we know they like to play in certain scenarios, certain matchups, Hartenstein and Holmgren next to each other. Now this is setting up for a future of playing Mara and Holmgren next to each other and protecting the rim that way and adding a lot of size and versatility to the team in that manner. But I don't want to say this is annoying, but what's crazy about this for Oklahoma City is Ade Mara, Sorber was a guy last year people thought would come in and play right away and actually add value to a team. Unfortunately, we all know he got injured, missed the entire season. But Sorber could be a guy next year who could contribute to Oklahoma City. But Ade Mara, it's the same conversation. He could come in next year and actually contribute to this team because he was the one prospect I was looking at alongside of Lindeberg, who was a little bit older. But Mara, as a center, nice touch around the rim, 7'2", big guy, defensively, can be a shot deterrent. He has the overall makeup of a big who's going to come in and play right away and at least own a floor of, we can start you can be a valuable second big off the bench. You're a guy who's going to come in and at least get us 10 and 8 every single night and maybe block a couple shots. That's who Ade Mara is. Now he's on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who make this pick. They're going to be contending for the title yet again next season. It actually adds to their title chances knowing the Oklahoma City Thunder just picked a big guy specifically who can come in, and we all know I don't want to say their kryptonite matchup, although it really should be. It should be. Their kryptonite matchup was the San Antonio Spurs with a man named Victor Wembanyama, who just so happens to be 7'6". If the Oklahoma City Thunder know that's their enemy moving forward, and that's who they have to take out, Ade Mara, he's another body they add into that equation. More size, more capability of potentially throwing, or rather just more capability for the Thunder to throw long bodies at Wemby and stop him in that way. Because we all know Chet struggled. Isaiah Hartenstein took the more physical path, but we don't even know if he's going to be on the roster next year. And now Ade Mara, he's going to be another body the Oklahoma City Thunder can actually play throughout the regular season and then throw at Wemby come playoff time. And that's why this pick makes sense for me for Oklahoma City. Although I see your point, Franco, and maybe you want to round out the forwards a little bit better when you have all this great guard play. It seems like the Thunder are caked with guards. There's a lacking sense of a legitimate forward cast, right? Like legitimate wings in there. You have all these combo guards who can play as wings, but they're not, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" wings. And then you have all these bigs now, and I do wonder, if Isaiah Hardenstein, if he's gone. And if they're preparing for the future, here comes Adam Silver on the Heat.
With the 13th pick in the 2026 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Nate Amon from the University
The
of
Bucks are
Arizona.
looking. The Bucks starting lineup is now.
That is such a Bucks pick. That is such
Yep.
a Bucks pick. And I
Burry's
apologize. I said the
hero.
Heat were coming up, but of course, we see
Burry's
the
hero, Jaquez, Ament, and Ware is now the 5 cornerstone pieces of the Milwaukee Bucks that they didn't have moving forward 24 hours ago.
I like Nate Ament. I do. I like him at this spot. I didn't like him as a top flight prospect. Say you were to take him in the top 5 and people were suspecting, oh, look at this, versatile 6'10" forward. People are so enamored by those guys. But I like him around this spot, mid first round, late lottery here for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's such a Milwaukee Bucks pick. That's what makes me a little bit worried is how many times had the Milwaukee Bucks taken shots at versatile forwards mid round, mid first round, late first round, and they just haven't really worked out for the Bucks. I mean, you could go down the list. There are quite a few of those guys over the years. Nate Ament seems like another shot at one of those forwards who you theorize owns the defensive versatility, can shoot on the offensive end of the floor, can put the ball on the floor a little bit. What can those guys become? Because those are really your Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown type of players. Like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the elite, the optimized version of what you would suspect, say, a Nate Ament or even an AJ DeBanza to become over time. And there have been many other prospects like that, but not every prospect gets to that level. Ament, though, what I'll say about him, he reminds me a little bit of Andrew Wiggins, which is a little ironic considering he's going to be wearing the Miami Heat hat here, and he'll be, of course, on his way to Milwaukee, but reminds me a little bit of Andrew Wiggins, the way he moves. I think he owns a better jump shot than Andrew Wiggins, but that's who I kind of see him as a player. And that's where I go, I don't see the top flight star capability within Ament. That's the best case scenario is he turns into a Brown or Tatum or somebody like that, right? But I see the capability of becoming a great starter in the league and maybe even a guy who could be a fringe all-star one year if he's really that good. But I don't see him as, in that top tier of consistent perennial all-star and all NBA and all those guys. I see him as a potentially good starter. Think about, he doesn't remind me necessarily of Trey Murphy because of the skill sets are a little bit different. Like Nate Ament is more prone to take mid-range shots and even be more of a catch and shoot type of guy than say Trey Murphy, who there's a little bit of a shooting off the dribble element to his game. And we all know Trey Murphy and Peyton Pritchard take the deepest shots in the NBA statistically. And I don't see that in Nate Ament's game. He's not as pure of a shooter and scorer as Trey Murphy is, but I see him like size-wise, movement-wise, there's some similarity there. Although, even if you were to compare him to Murphy, I think Murphy, there's a little bit more explosion. And same thing with Ament is, which these hats are the same thing with Ament. The explosion, I would say he's less explosive than say Trey Murphy, but that's where I see him closer to say Andrew Wiggins at certain times. But Ament wearing the Miami Heat hat right now, so congratulations to Nate Ament for being the guy wearing the hat of the team he's actually not going to play for, but he's wearing that bedazzled Miami Heat hat. I mean, Frank, are you liking these bedazzled hats? What's your thought on them? I kind of like them.
If they usually they get more creative. I like when they had like back when 47 Apparel was running them. They used to hook us up with merchandise back in the day, so I'll give them the shout out. They were the ones supplying some great hats for the NBA and were had the stylish underbrims on a lot of them. They would supply the snapbacks, but the bedazzlement is onto a black hat. Seems cheap. It
What I like
seems
about it
cheap.
is like I thought the NBA or NFL they just could not make a hat with a logo on it anymore, and they really simplified these hats and went they're basically just a hat with the draft logo on the side and a team logo on the front, but we're just gonna bedazzle the team logo, and that's what's gonna be our big stylistic add to the hat. Other years they'll make these hats where they're gray and you can't even tell which team's which because the hat's so moved around to or like the colors and the logos of the hat so creative to a point where you just don't even recognize which team is which I've been totally skimping on filling out the ticker here. Yeesh.
Yeah, I was waiting for a timeout, but or something. But one thing, it's just gonna drive me up a wall until. Why can't the NBA just fix this about the draft picks and them walking out with the wrong hats? Everyone, like the trade was announced before this has even happened that the Bucks were going to own Miami's pick this year. There is no reason why Nate Ament isn't able to get a photo wearing a Bucks hat on the stage.
It's literally just the hat.
As
I mean, literally
it,
just the hat.
it, but they could just fix that. It's such an easy fix. All you have to do is just have them wear the hat that they're going to actually play for. Have some have the symbolism actually mean something.
Which Shams is saying something on screen right now, although I don't know.
I don't think he could be saying anything important just yet.
Well,
Ah,
usually they go
I
on
was
here and they talk about like, oh, this team was considering moving this. But what
I
do we
got
got here? Whoa, 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 whoa.
I got this pick right.
We have a trade to announce as part of a deal to be finalized later. The Miami Heat are trading to Milwaukee Bucks the draft rights to Nate Ament, the 13th pick. And with the 14th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Hannes Steinbach from Würzburg, Germany. And the
I like that little. I like that pronunciation by Adam Silver. Highness Steinbach.
What's crazy about this pick is purple, purple, purple. A lot of people had him going to the Hornets at this spot. He went to Washington, so you just Hannes Steinbach was meant to be purple.
Frank Kaminsky 2.0.
Although Frank
But
Kaminsky,
yeah, I mean, it kind of was really the only. It was also the pick that made sense for what the Charlotte Hornets are looking for. Obviously, shopping the idea of moving off of Miles Bridges allows them to look at adding another 4 or 5. But yeah, I would say yeah, Steinbach.
okay, Steinbach, the problem with me is he's the first player really out here that I question, like, where is his actual fit in the NBA? Just period. I'm like, all right, he's kind of a guy I look at and I'm like, he's a 6'8" forward with center qualities. And that makes me a little uneasy because I don't know what you really are. And I really, when I look at that, the players I want to ask that question of are players that are like, are you a guard or are you a forward? I don't like to ask the question of are you a forward or are you a center? I asked that question a little bit with Lindeberg too, which makes me makes me a little weary about him. But I see, I definitely see more in Lindeberg's game than Hannes Steinbach, in my opinion, just from like a
Oh, and
scoring.
they got Dirk Nowitzki surprising Steinbach.
Let's see.
I guess him and his dad's their parents are good friends.
So Steinbach, does he play for Team Germany? We gonna see him in the Olympics?
Possibly down the road.
See all these international guys, they're now at college because they can make money. They can make money. All right. Okay, we got the Dirk. I see what we're talking about here. I got the
Nice
Dirk.
little Dirk little memento. Yeah, I think we're about to hit another commercial break.
Whew.
And
We are rolling. We are rolling along in this NBA draft. We are really
they're
rolling.
doing. Is it me or are they doing this draft a lot faster than they were in past years?
I feel like it's.
I think that it feels like this one's flying through.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's
Actually, want to know what?
time.
They're perfectly on time because we started at literally 8 o'clock, right when the first pick was put in, and now they're at pick 15, so an hour and a half in. So they're right on schedule, right on cue.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like it's going along at the same pace that it's gone on and gone.
It's
Gone
the
with in the
NFL
past.
draft that always feels like death because for some reason they feel the need to put 5 minutes on the clock.
Well, let's see here. We got picks 1 through 10. Working on the ticker here in the background. I should have been on this, but we were talking about players and prospects and whatnot.
Oh, we've had a few comments. Hello, the dumbass junior.
What do we got for comments down here?
He's been following along. Thank you for following along. Thank you for joining us on this 2026 NBA draft watch along. Hornets
Right now-
defense sucks. I mean, the Hornets defense, it's a really interesting look with Miller and Knuppel now alongside Lonzo Ball and the mix up of Kalkbrenner. It's really finding a core five to mix in with along with those three is going to be a interesting task. I think they are probably gonna. I would honestly think that the Charlotte Hornets are looking for more of a pure four than anything else. Obviously, they have that within Grant Williams and Miles Bridges on their roster at this moment. However, I think they could use an upgrade over those two to really bring them to that next level and contention in the East.
Which team are we talking about right now?
Charlotte Hornets.
Who just took Hannes Steinbach here. Which, to me, I mean, for the Hornets, I would have preferred a little bit more size here, but I'm more of a. So let's see. Ahmed just went 13, Steinbach 14. I mean, I would have been a little bit more of a Karim Lopez type of guy, maybe even an Alan Graves type of guy. I'm still, Phylon. I'm wondering how far he drops because I even like Phylon. I mean, my thing with Steinbach is I just don't know what his ceiling seems questionable to me in the NBA, and he might just be a player that teams have around for a while, but doesn't ultimately amount to. See, like it's hard because in some instances it's like, oh, is this guy going to mount into a star? No, some of these guys are just straight up role players. But I would say that Steinbach, I just question like what he actually is going to be in the NBA. Could he be a center? I'm like he has center qualities, but he's more of a forward. He's kind of that Danny Wolf from last season in a certain sense.
Hey, he he's coming out to become a. He had a great performance last year. He's keeping my streak good of players that I am
Great
interested
performance on the
in.
Nets.
Yeah, I mean, Rocco Zakarski we didn't get to see, unfortunately. That was one of the players I was excited about. I will share. Well, you know
Oh, we
what?
got the
I'm going to
Bulls
share
selection.
while we can.
Jalen Swain from the
Dylan
University
Swain.
of Texas.
That's a reach a little bit early, but
Dalen Swain to the Bulls at 15. So the Bulls come away with Caleb Wilson and Dalen Swain from
yep.
Texas here.
So Giddy, Swain, Buzelis, Wilson, Claxton. That is your Chicago Bulls heading into next year.
Milwaukee picked Nate Ament. Wow, I really like that pick for Milwaukee, except for they've literally taken a shot on that type of player a million times. Sorry for all the clicking, folks. We are updating the ticker here. We're a million picks behind, but we're going to fix that.
I'm gonna while we're in a lull, I'll put out my three Celtics that I'm looking forward to as we reach pick 15, or as pick 15 is selected. My three players on the big board right now, while Christian Anderson is still around, I'm gonna make my big board all the way from the best available now until 27. My player I'm most interested in was Malik Thomas, heading out of Arkansas for the Boston Celtics. But yeah, looking at the board, if Christian Anderson or Phylon keep on slipping, that might be something that I would be interested in possibly entertaining if the price isn't too high to move up for one of those guys.
So right now, which rip got a little bit of an error there. But okay, so right now we are heading to pick 16, which Memphis owns. So Memphis is going to add their second player of the night here. And I think
I'm
pick
assuming they
16,
go guard here. This is
um,
where you get your John Morant replacement in either Phylon or Anderson.
I'm also with Estebanza is up there talking on the draft panel right now. Man, let's collect ourselves here. What's going on in this draft? So Steinbach to Charlotte, Dalen Swain to Chicago, Memphis on the clock. Next, Memphis. I believe this is Orlando's pick from the Desmond Bain trade. So always got to track these picks too, where they're actually coming from for these teams. And this pick next, coming up from the Orlando Magic, heading towards the Memphis Grizzlies.
Orlando could have used this pick.
Well, yeah, considering they were basically a 500 team last year and a playing team.
I'm really interested. I wonder what is going to happen to them moving forward, because it seems like they're really in a purgatory within themselves because of the roster that they've created. Obviously, they have a lot of top end talent that they would have to move off of to rebuild. But I'm interested to see how long they hold on to the combo of Suggs, Bain, Wagner, Boncaro and either Carter or whatever centers they have. They have a good array of center depth, but that's a team that I find it's going to be really hard for them to upgrade past what they already have, or it's going to be hard for them to build upon what they have already. Is what I'm trying to say.
Also, talking about this Dalen Swain pick here, I actually like this pick for the Bulls because I can see what Swain is going to be in the NBA. And I think he's going to be a somewhat versatile forward that, like, you're looking at how he plays in his body. You're kind of looking at him like, can he turn into like an OG Anunoby type over time? Can he really bulk up and fill out to the point where he's one of the more physical forwards and driving to the rim and, you know, hitting that outside shot and defending on the other end of the floor? That's how I look at Swain midway through the first round. I like the upside of Swain, no doubt, for the Bulls. And I think it's actually uncharacteristic of the Bulls to take somebody that, in my mind, feels like the Bulls will take these weird shots at guys that you think, oh, they're very theoretical. They need a lot of development. I don't see Swain as a guy who needs all this different development within his game to be a good player. I think he's going to be able to slot in right away and become a good role player for the Bulls. And who knows, maybe even that progresses into a starting status over time versus, say, a Noah Esingate last season. Very young, very raw, very theoretical. And you're thinking,
I didn't
are the
even see the
Bulls really
court
that
next to it.
franchise to be developing that type of player? The Bulls just, it doesn't seem like they're going to be the ones that really get the full capabilities out of. They're not going to be the team that develops Nsenge's fully capabilities to
Whoa,
the fullest.
whoa, Memphis. All right,
But that's where I look at Dalen Swain. I like the pick of Swain by the Bulls here.
interesting move by Memphis.
Which
Coming up.
Swain, 34% from three last year. Just looking at some of those, wasn't a very high volume shooter. I mean, that's the one thing we'll see out on the perimeter.
16th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Bennett Sturtz from the University of Iowa.
Passed up
No, I like
on
it. I like
Pylon and Anderson.
I
for
like this.
Bennett Sturtz.
I was looking at Bennett Sturt's film last night, and Bennett Sturtz, to me, reminds me a little bit of a Landry Shamet-esque player, and I think he could have that career arc where Landry Shamet, he was the number one option at Wichita State when he was at Kansas in college. Landry Shamet was the number one option at Wichita State, and then when he transitioned into the NBA, we all know Landry Shamet became more of a role player coming off the bench, someone who's going to come in, hit a shot. But we all know Landry Shamet, he developed his game to the point where he's a legitimate rotation piece for an NBA Finals winning team in the Knicks, coming off the bench, hitting shots. We know he can put the ball on the floor a little bit. Great passer. And defensively, I really give credit to Landry Shamet for getting in shape and becoming more athletic within his NBA career and actually becoming a player who's not solely a liability on the defensive end of the floor. That's what I see with Sturtz. Coming in to the NBA, he's a lot like Shamet. He was the number one option at Iowa, a good playmaker there, clearly a great scorer, a great shooter as well. But what I see his role as in the NBA is more of a sixth man, seventh man
Hold
type
on.
of guy who
This
comes
was a
off the bench.
reported trade to OKC, as reported to us in the comments. OKC gets Sturtz for 2 second rounders. Huh. They just traded up
What?
one pick.
OKC trades up one pick to draft Sturtz here? Is that what we're hearing? Is that Sturts to OKC.
Or wait, did they not trade up? Are they keeping pick 17?
Reported trade to OKC. Timeout. Let's go. Let's check the Twitter noties. Okay. So
OKC just traded their
per
2
Sham Sharania, sources, Memphis is trading number 16 pick Bennett Sturts to the Oklahoma City Thunder for 2 second-round picks.
So OKC is going to have.
They're not moving. They didn't move up. They just traded 2 second-round picks
No.
for the 16th pick. A timeout. We got to be clear here. To be clear. Jake Fisher reports the Thunder and Grizzlies, to be clear, are swapping number 16 and number 17.
Okay.
Our first trade of the first round. So Shams not clear on that. Jake Fisher's initial tweet not clear on that. And even everybody aggregating it the same way we were just now, not clear on that. But yes, this 17th overall pick is going to Memphis. So Memphis now on the clock. But Bennett Sturts going to Oklahoma City, and that's somebody who I think not in the near future, but in the distant future could add something to Oklahoma City, especially playing alongside. I look at all the
against Dort. They are just, I honestly think that this is the way of the Oklahoma City Thunder just recycling out anyone that they've had to pay. Anyone that they've had to pay over double digits, they are just going to recycle you out for one of these draft picks. And I think that means probably either Dort, Isaiah Joe, one of these players who is making more than needed. And it's not even to say that these players aren't even worth the price of what they're making, but in Oklahoma City Thunder's eyes, they are literally a farm system creating their own talent, and they really don't even have to extend players unless they are of the echelon of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, because they can just continue to bring in guys like Bennett Sturts and earlier on Ade Mara, and that it could be the two players that replace Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein's contracts, which would be them, instead of paying $50 million for those two guys' services, they can pay two rookies over the next 4 years about $10 million to do the same exact thing, and if not, become more valuable over time.
I'm trying to, let's see here, confirm that this is how you spell Bennett. I'm just okay. So
I think that's a double N, double
T. Gotta make sure, because some people you never know. But Bennett Sturts, I really do see him as a player over time that's like a Landry Shamet, where in college he's a number one option, playmaker, a scorer, a little bit of a defensive liability because of his size and stature. Then in the NBA, teams take that number one option ability and mold it into role player status, where he can come in off the bench, hit a couple of shots, put the ball on the floor, dribble it if you really need him to. Of course, score the ball if you were to need him to off the bench a little bit, to be a complementary player next to other star players. And then, of course, defensively, you'd hope he makes that same progression and that same leap as Shamet over time, becoming more athletic, filling out, putting more muscle on, and becoming a better NBA body. Because you do look at Sturts, you go, he's a little thin, a little raily. You question the physicality within the NBA. But I think overall, looking at his capabilities on the basketball floor from a playmaking perspective, for like, he just attacks gaps and opportunities well. It seems as if he's going to become an efficient NBA player, whether that's as a starter at some point or even what I project to be role player status for Sturts and potentially, a nice sixth, seventh guy to bring off your bench. If not, maybe later in time he is a starter.
Is
I wouldn't bet on
Phylon?
that, but
Well, hold
if you're
on.
so-
Wait until this next pick. You're gonna. I mean, I don't understand why OKC even made the trade that they did and giving up 2 second rounders
With the
for.
17th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Ibuka Okori from Stanford University.
New Hampshire.
Wow.
New Hampshire zone.
Corey, the
Igbuka Corey, this is a guy I think would have been, and I think he's in that slew of guards, as we mentioned, like for certain teams, he was in that conversation. But I think ultimately with the Corey, his size is going to matter within the equation of just being a smaller guard with less physical attributes than say a Darius
6'1",
Acuff, and
186.
less all-around game than say Kingston Flemings, and even less size and physicality than a guy like him as well. And like if you look at all the guards, right? So what do we got here? We are
All right. So Christian Anderson and LeBaron Phylon being on the board. Brad Stevens, fire up that phone right now.
but looking at all the guards, Wagler at 5, all-around guard with size. You can see why he went at 5. Mikal Brown at 6, offensively very gifted. Some questions on the defensive end. He's a little lengthier, but the smoothness, the fluidity is there on the offensive end. All this skill set. Darius Acuff, great offensive player. You wonder defensively, can his physicality make up a little bit for his size on that end? Kingston Flemings, a little bit more size than say Mikal Brown or even Darius Acuff in terms of just pure height, but which they actually list Mikal Brown as almost 6'5". That's intriguing, just saying. But he doesn't look 6'5" out there. That's what I'll say. But Kingston Flemings, there's more size there. The wingspan you question, and you just question like what is his actual ceiling as an offensive creator in the NBA. Okori, I think the size and the fluidity offensively, like all these other guys, and even Sturts, you think all these other guys are great creators, or there's some size to them, or there's some two-way capability. There's something special going on with some of these other guys. Wagler, the special trait is he's an all-around guy. Mikal Brown, the special trait, the fluidity on the offensive end of the floor. Darius Acuff, what he can do everywhere on the offensive end of the floor. Kingston Flemings, what he can do as a two-way guy. Sturts, as a playmaker, as somebody who can shoot the ball. But Okori, I look at him and I go, okay, he's somebody who can score the ball, but he's not as natural as some of these other guards. Plus, owns a little bit of a size disadvantage and a size concern, being only 6'2". But that's not to say, some of these guards when they're smaller, their motivation and all of them. And it's not to say he can't succeed in the NBA, but you see why he's behind some of these other guys. What I'm surprised with is Phylon falling, which Phylon to me, he's another guy. He's a spark plug scorer who's going to come off the bench for teams. And I think he's going to be somebody that teams love to have off the bench, but I think that's his ceiling. I think that's why he's falling here a little bit. His teams realize, okay, we're basically bringing in, Peyton Pritchard in a sense. Somebody like I compared him last night. Well, I wrote up a little thing last night about him being a spark plug scoring guard who's going to come off the bench, blah blah blah. And then later in the night, somebody popped up on screen. I was watching draft comps and whatnot. Somebody had compared him to Peyton Pritchard, Phylon. They'd compared to Peyton Pritchard. I don't totally agree with that. I think Phylon's a little bit different in how he goes about scoring on the offensive end of the floor. It's more of a driver than Pritchard is, as we've seen. But I can see why he's falling because teams are sitting there thinking, oh, he's going to be maybe a sixth man type. But see, that's where I go, okay, some of these other players, after the slew of guards, plus Morez Johnson, you really saw Wagler, guard, Mikal Brown, guard, Acuff, guard, Flemings, guard, Burry's guard. and that was 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. But then Merez Johnson, a lot of size. Yaxel Lindeberg, a lot of size. Ade Mara, we all know. On Tankathon, they have him listed as nearly 7'5" on here. So certainly a lot of size there. Nate Ahmet, a lot of size. Hannes Steinbach, a lot of size. Dalen Swain, a lot of size. And then you get now to Bennett Sturtz and Okori. Those guys drop off and they're the guards without a lot of size. So you have this run where you have these really talented offensive guards go. So some guards that could be all around guys like Wagler and Flemings, and offensively, you're looking at the talent of Acuff and Mikal Brown, you see the special qualities in their games, and even Burries as well as a two-way guy and all-around guard. But then all these other guys are sizable wings or bigs. That's why I wonder, like Sturtz, Okori, even Phylon, why they would be dropping past this point, because teams just own more of an appetite for sizable players once we're getting into the like, you look at the guards at the top again, there's reasons to think why some of these guards could be stars, if not really great starters. But then once you get past Burries, you look at Okori, you look at Sturtz, you look at Phylon, you theorize those guys as more of, okay, they might come off the bench for you as guards. They might not be good starters. They might not be all-stars. They might be great bench players, great sixth men, and great complementary guards off the bench who fill specific roles, but they're not going to be to the level of these guards who went, again, like Wagler 5, Mikal Brown 6, Acuff 7, Fleming's 8, and Burry's 10. And then all these other teams in the middle, they're sitting there going, we're not going to take a shot on a guard. We're going to go ahead and get some size here. And some of that was circumstantial, such as, say, OKC and Golden State. Golden State going with a more mature player, OKC going with a sizable player who could replace Hardenstein, who knows, if not be another body, the Oklahoma City Thunder can throw out Wemby, and here come the Hornets with the 18th overall pick.
Pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Christian Anderson Jr. from Texas Tech University.
Good draft from Charlotte so far.
I like this pick. Once he was falling, it became evident, okay, this is a guy you have to look at, because he's kind of that, combo forward guard type of a player I was talking about earlier, where you go, I'm not really sure what he is, but I'd rather have that problem with a guy who can handle the ball and be a wing on the perimeter than, say, a guy who's working on the inside, or you don't really know if he's going to be able to work on the outside as a, forward center type of guy. But in terms of Christian Anderson here as a guard, you definitely see the capabilities of his game being a versatile all-around player. Now, I don't think, like, you get into this portion of the draft, you start getting, right now, we're past the lottery. This is the 18th overall pick. The term of star probably needs to be thrown away at this point.
Yes.
Now, there could be stars, don't get me wrong, picked.
Usually, that's usually when that word should start getting thrown away. I mean, that top 10 is usually where I would say once you fall out of the lottery, that's where you can kind of stop projecting guys coming into game one of the season as the starter. Because usually when you see a top 10 player, you assume that they are going to be on the court for the starting lineups on opening night. But when you start going towards the lottery, that's where you start to see these guys start to fall back into more rotational pieces. And then obviously when you move on to the second round, that's where you're seeing two-way contract players.
So Okori's going to Memphis, right?
Yes. Okori's in Memphis. Sturtz is in Tennessee.
No, Sturtz is going to OKC.
OKC, not Tennessee.
Tennessee. We're reading the Nate Ahmet. So who? Christian Anderson. Christian Anderson. What I'll say about that name is, what a
6'1",
that's like a Dan Smith name. Not gonna lie.
6'1", 180.
Dan Smith.
Of Christian Anderson. What a yikes. Sizing up with him. Coming after you, Christian Anderson. Get your weight up, get your size up.
So let's see here.
Even
They
though
have him
you're
listed
probably-
at 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1", 180. I'm coming after you, Christian Anderson.
Really?
Trade alert.
Trade
Nope.
alert here.
Grizzlies receive 21st overall pick and 3 second-round picks, and the Pistons receive Abuka Okori.
So Corey not going to Memphis. Actually, he's going to Detroit now. Let's see. Christian Anderson. Yeah, I mean Christian Anderson for me. So he's going to. Oh, what is happening here? Well, hold up. What do we got here? So the Pistons go with a Corey. All right. So also Anderson can be actually. So my bad, folks. I kind of mixed up the prospects here. So Anderson going to. Where is he going right now? To the Hornets, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for the Hornets here,
They draft
recalibrate.
themselves their point guard too. Backup point guard / 6-man. Which is replacing Kobe White, which means Kobe White is probably in the market. Celtics fans or NBA fans.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, okay, so I think I would have, if I were the Hornets, it seems like they're just kind of caked with guards. If they're not gonna re-sign Kobe White, like if that pick kind of signals they're not gonna re-sign Kobe White. And
that's what I'm getting
earlier I
from a lot of
mentioned,
these picks is I'm getting a lot of like when these guys are or when these teams are taking these players with a player in a position that is currently entering a player or club option, when they draft someone that's in that position, it makes me tend to lean that they are probably going to be off of their roster and are looking to replace said player that is entering a player option.
well, for me, like that pick at 18, I would have. So earlier, I wrongly stated like Anderson. I was thinking of Cameron Carr, who's kind of in between a forward and a guard in a sense. Anderson's definitely more.
With the 19th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select Alan Graves from Santa Clara University.
Now that's a pick I like right there for the Raptors.
Clara has had.
That is a pick I like for the Raptors. The Raptors made some pretty good draft picks. I think looking at Alan Graves' game, I think he's just going to succeed in the NBA. He's going to be a versatile forward who can defend, can hit jump shots on the perimeter, and someone who's a quick decision maker, not afraid to put the ball on the ground. He's not really going to be a scorer with the ball, but I just like his catch and shoot ability. And also looking at his overall size as well, definitely somebody who
Him and Murray
could pose a
Boyles
defensive
are
threat
great.
later on down the line, even a rebounding threat for teams. I'm surprised Alan Graves went after guys like Okori, Anderson, even Sturts, and I would say Steinbach too, in a certain way. You know, Dalen Swain. I would like Alan Graves over Dalen Swain, but this pick by Toronto, I think that's going to be a little bit of a dark horse. Great move later on down the line. And Toronto, they've been known to pick players who sometimes diamonds in the rough. You go back to Jakob Pertl, Pascal Siakam, different, Masai Ujiri
Different
was the head,
dynasty.
of course. But you go back to those picks, OG Anunoby, Colin Murray Boyles last year, I was very high on. Now it's Alan Graves. You have some of these draft picks in time for the Toronto Raptors that really, for me, I it's crazy. Like the Raptors, not a huge fan of their transaction history as of late, but some of their draft picks have certainly been quality. And I think Alan Graves is going to be another one of those quality draft picks for the Raptors. And I'm a little surprised he fell past guys like Christian Anderson and Okori Sturts. Not necessarily Sturts. Sturts, I could see a world where he goes over Alan Graves, but wrongly earlier I mentioned Christian Anderson was a combo, kind of guard forward. I was thinking of Cameron Carr, but Christian Anderson, on the other hand, as a guard for the Hornets, what I'll say about that is, it seems a bit like, you could add him into that guard mix with Sturts, with Phylon, and with Okori, where you go, the special capabilities, what is really his ceiling? I almost see Christian Anderson as a little bit of a Bones Highland, where Alan Graves, could he be, an Al Farouk Aminu in the NBA? Could he be a Mo Harkless, somebody like that? I think of, old Blazers forwards I'm thinking about right now, but I like the upside of Alan Graves as a forward and a big forward over and a shooting like
I
Alan
think he and
Graves.
Murray Boyles might be kind of redundant.
No, because Alan Graves to me is a legitimate shooter, and Murray Boyles is not as much of a shooter. Like you have that rim presence with Boyles, you still have
But I
that
would
size with
consider them
Graves,
both
but he can also
forwards.
shoot the ball. That's why I love Graves. You have the size, the defensive capability, and he can shoot the ball on the perimeter off the catch. That's a player the Raptors really need. They keep their size within their lineup. They don't give up any size. They don't surrender any size by picking Alan Graves from what their lineup already is. Yet they're adding shooting now, which is to me something that really held them back in that Cavs series. The Cavs felt like the Cavs just had a more skillful offensive team of shooters versus the Raptors. Like that Cavs Raptors series was just a mind F because you had the Cavs on one end bombing threes and handling the ball, setting up all these plays with offensive movement. And then on the other end, you had just this put your shoulder down, drive downhill, get to the rim, finish in any way you can. RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes centric offense that, at times they were getting it done against Cleveland, but Cleveland, there's a lot more masterful, skillful offense happening from Cleveland and the Cavs versus the Raptors. It felt very archaic and just, we're going to put our shoulder down and get to the rim. Very physical type of offense. Now Alan Graves, I believe, puts the Raptors on the perimeter a little bit more, or rather puts Alan Graves for the Raptors. There's a little bit more of a perimeter presence within his game, and now on the Raptors roster and within the Raptors lineup than there was, say, 10 minutes ago. So I do like that pick for the Raptors right there. I would have not liked if they would have. I would have been a little skeptical if they would have went with Karim Lopez, because Karim Lopez would have been the player that I look at and go, he's redundant to what they already have in Barnes and RJ Barrett and Colin Murray Boyles. And you could even say Grady Dick if he's still a young player they like, of course, going into year 4. We don't know how that's going to turn out, but Karim Lopez would have been a little bit more
I can't believe
redundant
it's
because there's
already
less
year
shooting
4
within
on
his
Grady
game
Dick's
versus
career.
Graves. Much more shooting there. Cam Carr, kind of falling down the board here. Phylon falling down the board a little bit.
Lopez falling down the board. This is the interesting. There are going to be some intriguing players on the board at 27.
Right now, Tankathon has the Celtics taking Zuby Ejiofor,
Eh,
who is, I'm not a huge fan of because he's kind of that
we don't need more
you
bigs
you
right
are
now.
you are an undersized. At the end of the day, Zuby Ejiofor, he's an undersized big in college, He owns all the big man traits, but is he actually going to be able to translate those traits to the NBA given he's an undersized player? That's what I look at. If you have all the big man traits, rebounding, scoring around the rim, down inside the post, shot deterrence, say in college too, in the NBA, if you're 6'8" with all those capabilities, right? Your position in the NBA, or rather in college, was a guy who played as a big, but he's 6'8". In the NBA, how are you supposed to play as a big at 6'8"? You're not going to deter the same shots. You're not going to rebound the same. You're not going to be able to go to the same post moves or the same finishing moves around the rim. That's just the reality and what I look for in some of these players. That's why I look at Steinbach and go, they list him as 6'11". There's a little bit more size there than I would have thought, actually, looking at the tape. But you never know with these guys. Like Steinbach, taller than Ahmet. I feel like looking at them beforehand, like Ahmet was taller. But beside the point here, Steinbach, I look at him, I go, okay, there's some concern here that, he might not be sizable enough to play the way he did in college in the NBA. Same thing with the small guards. The small guards, you look at some of like Acuff and Mikal Brown, you're bringing those guys in to be, and you know what? I think I mentioned this earlier with those guards. Who's on the clock? San Antonio right now?
Oh, yeah. Right. They got better.
20th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Jaden Quaintance from the University of Kentucky.
That is an interesting pick. That is a risky pick, but I think it's a pick in which if you just made it to the NBA Finals, you're okay with taking at 20. The thing with Jaden Quaintance, didn't play last season because of an injury. All but 4 games. There's a question there when you see a player not playing with injury, you go, when is he going to actually play? And now his first run is going to be in the NBA, which I shouldn't say the first run is going to be in the NBA, but from not playing in college because of an injury to rehabbing to now going through the pre-draft process to now playing in the NBA, I just question what his developmental journey could actually look like and some of the traits in which people love out of him. I question, like, the injury in which he had, to my knowledge, he had a pretty major knee injury. And I just wonder, like, is he going to be able to sustain all of the traits, which is the physicality, the bounciness, the shot blocking ability, just the overall athleticism, physicality, size as a defender specifically? Are those traits going to hold up for Quaintance as time moves on within his career?
Sounds like they drafted Robert Williams.
Yeah, like in a way that can be. I don't want to say that's his comparison, but that was part of the Robert Williams conversation when he came in. It was, Robert Williams. The reason he dropped to 27 for the Celtics, Robert Williams was a legitimate lottery player. And he drops all the way to the Celtics because of those injury concerns. And there were some personality concerns, too, that came out, of course, right away when he missed his introductory press conference for the Celtics. He overslept. And, like you get those things. Those are the notes teams receive over time. It's like, yeah, this player was late for this, or this player's never on time, or, yeah, this player has an artery issue to where he can't get enough blood flow to his legs to play.
You're gonna
more than 4 games at a time.
Is that why it's called Time Lord when he was?
No, that was weird Celtics Twitter, which is completely died, I would say, nowadays, and people don't even remember it. And if people are like,
see if you can shout out some Celtics, some former Celtics Twitter, see if they're still out there.
Riffs man,
you out
where
there?
did Riffs man go, man? What happened to Riffs man? That is kind of the big question. He used to be the ringleader. And then Max Letterman would go on post game and just bring up, they'd be like, Max, what do you got for us tonight? And he would just bring up all the weird Celtics Twitter nonsense, and it would just be the greatest. Like sitting there at 11 o'clock at night, Celtics win, and here's Marcus Smart dressed as Benjamin Franklin on NBC Sports Boston, or sorry, CSN at the time.
Yes.
CSN.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Comcast Sports Network. Back when Comcast was a thing.
Wait, did what's his let's see, Alan Graves. He went to Santa Clara. I put in Santa Barbara. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. That's not right. So actually, Alan Graves came through St. Louis here not too long ago. Played Kentucky. So actually, we got Santa Clara guy at 19 and a Kentucky guy at 20, and those two teams faced here in St. Louis just a couple months ago in March. Although Quaintance was not playing.
And up next is now the Memphis Grizzlies. Not the 2 picks they had beforehand. Now it's officially.
Yeah. So the Grizzlies Grizzlies just kept on moving back. Maybe they want Phylon. Who knows?
But what? I mean, I just don't understand how that works, though. If you want a player, shouldn't you have to move up for him instead of move back for him?
No, I'm saying like maybe
All
they
right,
want Phylon.
so
they think all these other teams
they're
like, oh yeah,
showing the tweet to
they're
me
not
right
taking
now.
they're not taking
So-
Phylon.
Hold
So
on. The
therefore-
Grizzlies are receiving 5 second round picks, 5 future second round picks for Bennett Sturts and Abuko Okori to move back to the 21st overall.
Underrated, not underrated. But so okay, so wait. What's happening right now with what?
All right.
What
So
is-
within all these moves, with the Memphis Grizzlies moving back to 21, they were able to accumulate 5 future second round picks in the action of moving back to 21 from
And you know what? At this point in the draft, I don't want to. It is kind of a crapshoot. So you could look at a player like Quaintance, for example, Tankathon, in their mock draft. Quaintance was going in the second round. So the Spurs like Quaintance at 20. It's possible that teams love some of these guys. Like say last year, Hansen Yang goes to the Blazers at 16. It's possible a team like the Grizzlies, they're sitting there at what? They were originally at 16. They go, the guy we like, we could move back. Like we don't think teams are gonna select this guy. Here come the Detroit Pistons.
2026 NBA draft. The Detroit Pistons select Kareem Lopez from the Annual Steel
That makes
Mexico
sense.
and the New Zealand Breakers of the NBL.
However, I
Kareem
had
Lopez.
all right, and also I have to figure something out, and I also have a grift with Fanspo. I believe that Fanspo, in their mock drafts that I was using, were using players that decommitted, and I had I'm not sure if Braylon Mullins is in this even
No, I
draft.
think
anymore.
he is. He is.
Because
I believe he is.
there were a few players in my mock draft that I was going through, and it turns out they're not even eligible. So, I mean, but Kareem Lopez to the Pistons, that's a good move for
No,
them.
the
to
Grizzlies.
or the Grizzlies. It's Adam
Oh
Silver.
yeah, this is the part of the
Fix it.
night where it's like who's going where, what's happening, who's getting what. Like, and this is honestly what I like. This is why right now, like analysis, like I apologize everybody. Like it just is like everything happens so fast. Like one moment talking about, say like, okay, here's what the Hornets look like, the Raptors, and then it's like, oh wait, no, there's a trade going on between the Grizzlies and the Thunder. Oh wait, no, wait, are they swapping picks? Wait, they're not swapping picks. No, they are swapping picks. And then, oh wait, the Grizzlies are trading back again with the Pistons, who, oh no, we thought Okori was on the Grizzlies, but now he's on the Pistons. Yeah, you guys see how we can get a little flustered out here with
Just
all
wait until
this.
tomorrow night. If we are covering day 2, that's when the real frustration starts to kick in, because then they start calling out names that you didn't even know existed.
Al Horford tweets, "Bienvenido, Yaxel." So
Oh, I
Al
don't like
Horford might
that.
be picking up his player option.
I don't like the sound of that. Come on, Al. Thought you were supposed to come back here with Marcus. That was going to be the off-season run. Guess not.
Yeah, man. Just get Al back, Smarf, Time Lord. Just run it. Like, we missed out on Giannis. Just let's get the band back together, and if we don't win another one, we tried. We tried. Sorry, we tried, everybody.
Yeah, I am honestly. We'll get so much further into these conversations as the off season goes on, but this is so a last dance season for the Boston Celtics if it doesn't go well. So
No,
I honestly,
what?
or a last dance for the grouping that they have together right now with Jalen, because I don't think no, Jalen Brown on the Celtics can survive.
No, dude. The Sixers are up next. You already know what's about to happen here.
What are they going to take?
They're going to go Carr or Phylon. Both guards. You know what's so stupid about this is the Sixers are up. They just traded away Jared McCain because they thought, oh, well, we have too many guards. He doesn't slot in anywhere. And now they're showing Phylon and Carr on screen, two guards.
They've been showing Phylon and Carr since the lottery because they've been waiting for these guys to start crying on camera. But if I were the 76ers, I'd be going Sinak right now, Chris Sinak from Houston, because Philly has to bring in a center that can either play next to or rotate in whenever Embiid is out and it not being Andre Drummond.
Well, you don't like a Dembona?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm not a huge Sinek guy. I mean, if I were a team, I would maybe like
Koa Pete.
I feel like the Sixers need another
4. I think they go 4. I think a power forward, someone who can play a smaller center, or
I think looking at their options, like Sinak would probably make the most sense. Maybe a Taurus Reed, right?
Yeah. I would go,
guys. Like, I think that would make a lot more sense than Carr and Phylon and say a Koa Pete and Ejiofor and all those guys for the Sixers.
Yeah, they need someone that can slot in next to Embiid and help him out, or even fill in for him when he's out.
What I'll say too, we kind of glossed over the Kareem Lopez pick for the Grizzlies. Kareem Lopez, I think he's going to come in, add a lot of versatility to that Grizzlies roster, and he could be maybe Santi Aldama replacement time. Who knows? When the Grizzlies inevitably move from era to era, which I'm looking at the Grizzlies real quick here now. See, this is what's so tough, is jumping from conversation to conversation. So the Grizzlies.
Oh, those bastards.
Okay. No, but the Grizzlies guard situation, like you have Walter Clayton there, Ty Jerome, who you just signed last offseason, which who knows what they really think about that now, given the state of their roster. You still have John Moran on the roster, Contavious Caldwell Pope. That's why it didn't really make much
They
sense. The Grizzlies would have went with Okori, but going with Kareem Lopez afford sense.
actually picking
With the
up.
22nd pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select LeBaron Philon Jr. from the University of Alabama.
Come on. Also,
Come on, Brad.
Adam Silver just proving that we're all human goes up there. The Philadelphia Sixers select.
And then sets up LeBaron Philon too. I mean, hey, wanna know what? I would not be doing much better if I had his role and responsibility tonight.
You know what's just what's hilarious though? What's just hilarious is again the Sixers. They trade away McCain because there are too many guards. You have Maxey there, you have Edgecombe, you have Quentin Grimes. Of course, they had McCain. They go, there's too many guards. And then the NBA draft comes around with the 22nd overall pick. The Philadelphia 76ers select yet another guard, LeBaron Philon, who you'd have to think would have the same exact role as Jared McCain would have had if you were on the roster. And now you just turn to a younger, less experienced player now. McCain, you see 2 years in the league, was hurt one of those years. But you see what his capabilities are, or we saw it in the playoffs with OKC. We saw it in his early career with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Philon, you're just rolling the roulette wheel yet again. I really love Philon as a prospect, and I really think he's going to be a great NBA player I think he's going to be an inefficient starter you look to maybe replace where he's starting and you go, you kind of want a different guy in that starting lineup, like if you're really maximizing your starting lineup, but then he's going to be a great bench player to have on somebody's roster to put in somebody's lineup. So I think LeBaron Philon, that's a solid pick at 22 for the Sixers, but it's just hilarious knowing the Sixers, you had Jared McCain in this role, and now you're just rolling the roulette wheel with another young guy who's 2 years behind Jared McCain and LeBaron Philon, who might be worse than McCain because McCain already shown flashes of what he's capable of in the NBA, and we all know he's actually a legitimate NBA player versus Philon at pick number 22. Who knows if he even receives minutes off the bat for the Sixers given their guard rotation.
It's almost like it's awful for me watching teams really just avoid need in this draft. That's what we've seen a lot of. A lot of teams are shying away from drafting the apparent need and apparent sore thumb on their roster to fill what position is going to be filled. So whether that means teams are looking to either fill those roles via free agency or via trade, it just doesn't make sense for me watching teams draft.
I think there's a component of drafting for need, but also drafting just the best available. Because you really look at it going down the list, Debonsa, you could say best available or a need for the Wizards. I would say It's both, really, for him. Darren Peterson was more of a need. Cameron Boozer was more of a need. Caleb Wilson, don't really have anything there if you're the Bulls. You're just selecting the best available there. Wagler, that's a best available pick. Mikal Brown, is that really a need? I mean, that's a best available pick, I would say, too, because you think last year, the Nets took 3 guards last year, so they take a guard this year as well. The Kings, you would say that is a need for the Kings to a certain degree, but also like the best, you could say the best available at the time as well. Kingston Fleming's a need for the Hawks. Merez Johnson, what are the Mavericks really need right now?
The Mavs
they need guard.
I thought they should have won.
Kyrie,
I had them going
Burries.
Burries. I had the Mavericks going Burries with number 9 in my.
Yeah, I mean the Mavericks. The Mavericks didn't pick on need. They picked based on Dusty May, we just hired him as the head coach. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, that whole situation. From
we got to get on from the Mavericks.
after
Like whatever,
watching,
they're special. They're operating in Kings territory where you go. You got to put an asterisk on some teams where you go. This is the Kings. This is the Pelicans. This is the Mavericks. They're not going to operate like any
Yeah.
other team. They're
Yeah,
just
the-
going to be. They're going to be
Dusty
the
May,
outlier in the mix.
I'm already putting a timer on his job. Like watching him start clapping right when they started showing him, and then they showed all three of the Michigan players. I knew that a Michigan player was going to go off the board, and I was like, no shit. And I was like, this is going to be something that is probably going to haunt his career in 2 years when he loses his job. Being like, oh yeah, remember when he hand selected one of his guys to come in, not even one of the best players out of the players that were available from Michigan to come in to Dallas and then cause another shitstorm. I mean, they're just. I think Dallas.
But moving on though from Dallas though, seriously, like looking at the conversation we were just on, because we could go on with Dallas on how it's like what they're just to me, like their decisions don't own much depth. It's well, Dusty May, he's won in college. Maybe he might win in the NBA. Let's hire him. And then okay, we'll leave it up to him apparently to draft Morez Johnson, who out of Michigan. So I just there's more Michigan players. And how do these other Michigan players think like my head coach just drafted Morez Johnson over us? Like I don't know. I'm just like that component's in there too. I don't know. But Burries for the Bucks at 10, like the Bucks with Ahmed and Burries, there's not much on that roster. Those are best available picks. Yaxel Lindenberg was, I would say, a little bit of a need for the Warriors in terms of experience, maybe not position wise. A Day Mara, you could say that could become a need for the Oklahoma City Thunder in time. Hans Steinbach,
Need.
best available. Dalen Swain, I would say best available because the Bulls didn't really have much there. You have Bennett Sturts. I would say that was also best available. Okori for the Pistons. Is that a need for the Pistons, the point guard position? Like
maybe. I mean, they needed.
I would say no because
I
think
would
they
say
have
you
a lot
want
of
a
ball
guard to
handling.
run next to Cunningham after losing Ivy to.
But you have Ron Holland, you have Marcus Sasser, and maybe those aren't long-term options, but it's like, is Okori going to even ascend past those guys? So Christian Anderson, I would say that wasn't
sure
really
the
for
Bucks might
need.
be picking
Alan
for it.
Graves, I would say, was for need. Quaintance was we'll take a flyer on this guy because we just made the
Bucks
NBA
are
Finals
probably
and we're a
picking for
team that's willing to take a risk with a draft pick right now. Krim Lopez, I would say, was a need, and Phylon was best guy available. So you do have some components of like teams drafting for needs, teams drafting best available, but also you get to this really 14 to 22 range that we're in now. And we just missed a pick. Rip.
Yeah, I was
14 to 22 range now, and now 23. It is a crapshoot of like who you think is the best available. But to give out this pick now, with the 23rd overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Zuby Ejiofor out of St. John's.
Thank you for getting him out of the way and not making him a possible Boston Celtic.
Ejiofor, I already mentioned with him earlier on this broadcast, but since he's now going to the Atlanta Hawks, he is this forward who plays like a big, and I think his best qualities are as a big, as a rebounder, as a finisher around the rim, as somebody who can block shots. But then I look, he's only 6'8", 6'9". Are those qualities going to come out in the NBA? Ejiofor, if you really look at him in college, he looks like a traditional big guy. And he can shoot the ball a little bit, just saying, so there might be some perimeter ability within his game. But moving forward, I just question if his best capabilities in college, in which people love, and he's only a 30% three-point shooter, so not as great of a shooter as I thought, although he's not afraid to take those shots from beyond the arc. But Ejiofor in the NBA, are his best capabilities going to be highlighted or minimized in the NBA? I would bet more so they're minimized, like, say, Giovanni Broom last year, where we didn't see Giovanni Broom really play in the NBA, but we knew him going in the second round.
I thought
This
he
is a
was
player who
injured.
very much played like a back to the basket type of
I'm,
guy, very
I'm pretty
physical,
sure
score around the rim, but he's just
Bloom
not going to be able
was
to do that in the NBA.
wasn't
Facing
Bloom
smaller guys
all
in
last
college,
year?
everybody's big, everybody's physical in the NBA. That's what I question about Zuby Ejiofor here at 23 for Atlanta. And we have this extravagant New York Knicks championship
Yeah,
craziness.
they're giving him the whole show in Barclays.
I
But
mean, come on, man. Like literally they got glitter, they got oh my, and it's in an away arena nonetheless. Also, they're not even I don't even think they're picking here. We
they
got a
are.
reported trade.
Oh nope, they reported trade. Well,
No, they got the
like
glitter coming
why
down,
are
the
they trading
confetti,
with
the
the
gold. Like,
Lakers?
what's going on here?
Like, why are they trading with the Lakers? Like, can you guys just be
Knicks
on the
Lakers trade?
Yeah, but why can't the Lakers and Knicks be like on the phone being like, "Hey, who are you thinking of taking? Oh, you're taking Henry Visor? Oh, all right. Well, I
Well, that's
kind
what
of like why
that's
don't
what I
they just
thought happened with the Nets and the Kings. Like the Nets the whole time are like, we're gonna take Acuff. You got to move up. You got to give us stuff, but we're gonna take Acuff. And then the Kings are like, all right, go ahead and take Acuff. And they're like, all right, we want Mikal Brown. Okay, see you guys later. And then it's just like, all right, we the Nets took Mikal Brown and Acuff went 7th. And all of the talk of, oh, the Kings are gonna have to trade up for Acuff to 5 or 6. Like, here we go. It's like, no, Vogler 5 and then 6. You have Mikal Brown. Those, the Clippers and the Nets, those are the players they wanted. And Acuff falls to the Kings at 7. That's a player they wanted. I thought that might have went on there to some extent where it's like, all right, we're just going to take this player, we're blah, blah, blah. But this trade, there's got to be more to this trade because it's just a pure swap right now. Per Shams Charania, sources, New York is trading number 24 to the Los Angeles Lakers for number 25. And then Underdog, Hoop Central, everybody, trade details. Knicks receive number 25, Lakers receive number 24. How does that make any sense? Like, there's got to be a second round pick in here. Like, there's got to be something going on.
like I feel like all rationality just gets thrown out the window when it comes to the NBA draft.
You're not going to believe this. Going back to the early portion of the draft, Darren Peterson on his rookie goals, play all 82 games.
Okay,
I
good for you, buddy.
mean, yeah, Kansas, there were 30 games and it felt like he missed like 10 of them. I mean, it's funny. Like, right. Like a player comes in and maybe that's actually good for Darren Peterson's career. That, what? We should zag on that and be like, actually, the concerning traits of himself at Kansas, not playing, load managing for whatever reason, maybe that's actually going to drive him to become a better NBA player because everybody was up his ass in college about you can't do this, you can't.
You
And
might have a
then,
pick coming up for you.
wow, the New York Knicks.
24th pick in the 2026 NBA draft. The New York Knicks select Cameron Carr from Baylor University.
And Cameron Carr will
Best
be on his
available.
way to Los Angeles, and the Knicks are actually picking next. So Cameron Carr will wear the Knicks hat. Whoever's picked next will wear the Lakers hat, despite them playing for a vice versa team.
Like, why would they? Why? Like, fuck off, NBA. Just make it simple. Like, just keep it. Like, you guys hurt yourselves more than you guys need to with this. Like, there's no need for him to be wearing a New
Really,
York
like,
Knicks
it's
hat.
just a hat at the end of the day. Like, sometimes it's like we go too far into the realm of standardizing ourselves as humans and saying, well, the transaction has not happened. We must follow the rules and our standards. Therefore, we cannot give this guy the right hat. And it's like you really boil it down to just outside of us standardizing ourselves, it's like it's just a hat. just give him the hat. And then on the other side, people are saying about us, guys, it's just a hat. You guys shouldn't care this much over a hat, but we do.
Well, think about it. It's that photo of any NBA player shaking hands with whatchamacallit, with Adam Silver. They get handed the hat. Let's say I got drafted by the Boston Red Sox. I am so happy to be a Boston Red Sox. Imagine if this was a Yankee hat. And I'm standing next to the commissioner of the league, shaking his hand, being like, I'm so happy to be a Boston Red Sox, but it says New York Yankees right here. What type of... It doesn't make sense.
I know, and it's just fabric at the end of the day. Just give the guy the different fabric. We know the transaction hasn't gone on yet, but then there's this whole other world where people could go, well, the transaction hasn't happened yet. It's a possibility it falls through, and then you give the guy the hat, and he's like, say, for example, the Giannis deal for whatever reason wouldn't go through, which would be maybe one of the craziest stories outside of the Luka trade in the NBA. But say that trade wouldn't go through. It's like the guy's wearing Nate Ahmet, he's wearing the Heat hat, and then he actually plays for the I see that angle, but I just give the guy the different hat. Come on, NBA. It's every year. It's funny because it's like every year.
The trade's official, find a way to make these trades actually follow through. And reported trade now. Now there's going to be a New York Knick wearing an LA Lakers hat for no reason.
Isn't it crazy that I wore this hat? Not this hat specifically. I had a different Cardinals hat, but same style, obviously. I wore this on stream every single stream last year, and now it's like,
now it fits.
Special occasion.
Or actually, no, it doesn't fit. Now it's actually quite rather larger. Usually you had to...
No, look at this. Look how much...
Yeah, no, you usually you'd be sitting on stream, pulling it down, getting it as right as you possibly can. Now it's just...
No, because in the old days I would talk and it would just kind of kind of fall off me, and I would be like, all right, let's put it back. But now it's... How about that? I gotta say, it's actually a lot more comfortable wearing a hat without hair. Straight up. But I'm a little... Got the backwards hat look going on. I don't know what look... I'm like, who do I look like right now? Somebody. I feel like I look like somebody. But my hair, I wanted to cut my hair today before the draft, but all the Giannis crap yesterday and just other life stuff, obviously, beyond the NBA. My hairline. Gotta wear the hat. Mask it a little bit. Yeah. That's how you make sure. All right, we're waiting for
the Lakers.
The Lakers at 25. I'm honestly getting a little restless for the Celtics
we're not
at 27.
Waiting for the Lakers. We're waiting for the Knicks.
Oh, right. And I'm also waiting restlessly for what the Celtics are about to do here.
I am hoping that I'm not even going to speak. I even though I'm on commentary right now, I'm not going to speak for the next two picks just to avoid what has happened to me every single year, which has been the guy that I want being taken right before.
This is what so is Adam Silver coming out yet?
No, it's the Lakers. He's getting all the LA showgirls to come out, and
I'm honestly surprised Cameron Carr fell as far as he did. I mean, great shooter, very athletic, and I thought I was talking about him earlier when I was talking about Christian Anderson, but he's that guy where I can figure, are you a forward? Are you a guard? You can kind of play in that combo position. That's really what I want to see out of some of those players. Sometimes if I'm confused, I want to be confused in that regard where I go, yeah, you can play on the perimeter. Maybe you can handle the ball a little bit, but maybe you're not in that role. Maybe you're just a stationary perimeter guy who can defend. Cameron Carr, I see a lot of upside within his game. and the Lakers getting him. It feels like every year it's like the Heat, the Lakers, the Sixers. They just make good picks, and you go, man, they came away with that guy at this spot. But that is Cameron Carr for the Lakers. And John Corrales, I don't know if this is necessarily a report. Also, cash considerations in the deal. The Knicks received cash. Okay, well. But I don't know if this is a report by John Corrales or not, or if this is just him saying he would go after these players. But John Corrales, with 2 more picks to go before the Celtics selection, some names to watch. Isaiah Evans from Duke, Taurus Reed from UConn, Alex Caravan from UConn, and Baba Miller from Spain, which for me, I would be most interested in Caravan from that group.
Guard. You're not going to... I want a guard. There's no... I mean,
why not
there's
Mullins?
No room for a forward on
Mullins
this.
and Caravan.
Well, where are you going to put Caravan in this rotation? What is he going to mix in with Sam Hauser? And I mean, you already have your 4 forwards moving forward. I'm comfortable with Shireman, Gonzalez, Walsh, and
First,
Harper
we have trades to announce.
Sorry to cut you.
As part of deals to be finalized later, the Oklahoma City Thunder are acquiring the draft rights to Bennett Sturts, the 16th pick. The Detroit Pistons are acquiring the draft rights to Ibuka Okori, the 17th pick. And the Memphis Grizzlies are acquiring the draft rights to Kareem Lopez, the 21st pick. And with the 25th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Sergio De La Rey from Valladolid, Spain, and the Valencia Basketball Club.
It's not even funny. It's not even funny anymore, NBA. It's not even funny. This can't keep on happening to me. This can't.
Well, what I'll say about this pick, he's going to the Knicks. So this is the second year in a row you have someone going to New York who was on your want list.
No, don't. All right. Just as long as oh my God! All right.
6'6".
As long as Denver, if Denver,
are we gonna get Chris Sinak?
If that
I say
be,
we, the Celtics.
That would be one hell of a fall. I think Denver would be smart to take him right now. Oh.
Sergio De La Rey.
The offensive version of Hugo Gonzalez.
He does have some of that Hugo Gonzalez-esque to him, although I think Gonzalez was a more like physical body, forceful driver.
Yes, but
during his time
De
in
La Rey
Spain.
is more of the playmaking, can finish, can create.
Right.
So
yeah, the finishing that's definitely what stands out to me. Is he's a smooth finisher, and I mean he's 6'6", 6'7" as a guard. That's definitely, you look at those guys, you go, that's somebody you hope to utilize on both ends of the floor, and that's why there's a lot of upside. Is even if those guys aren't stars, they're guards that could potentially come off the bench or even complement other star players in the future as versatile players who can play on the defensive end of the floor, matchup wise, and then offensively can create some on their own, if not play make for others. Yeah, I wonder a little bit his quickness going downhill. Like he's just a little like going downhill with him. The quickness and some of the like I just with the De La Rey, the quickness going downhill and just like some guys you see like they make up for that. They're either quick or they're a little shifty. They change the pace of rhythm. You know, there's some special qualities to guys' games. It seems like De La Rey is less defined in that regard. Like he doesn't have this shifty profile, this change of pace profile. Like he's not the fastest ball handler in the world. So I do see him as more of like maybe a complimentary guy than a main focal point, I would say,
But if you're the
for the
Boston
Knicks.
Celtics, that's what you're looking for at this point is just a great set of complementary guys. If we learned anything from the New York Knicks, is you got to be 15 deep in today's NBA. You have to be 15 deep, and I hate to say it, the Boston Celtics were not 15 deep last year, and I was saying that since the middle of the summer when the Celtics traded Kristaps Porzingis last year for George Niang. I knew that this team needed to fill in more depth and being able to get more players that are more just rotational contributors and can play a niche like a player like Sergio De La Rey would for the Boston Celtics would have been a perfect fill-in. But I'm watching these damn Denver Nuggets because they could cause a lot of equipment to go flying.
So, were you a Malik Thomas guy?
I am. That's my through and through. MT4 coming to Boston.
All right, just making sure because you never know.
Well, now I'm kind of scared because I didn't want to say his name because now I just jinxed myself. But maybe I might have double jinxed because usually I don't say their name before, but now
So, for the Celtics, you're looking at Isaiah Evans, Chris Sinak Jr., Taurus Reed Jr., Jack Cale, Malik Thomas, Alex Caravan, Ryan Conwell, Koa Pete. I would, if we draft Koa Pete, I'm sorry. You know what? How about Emmanuel Sharp? I've always liked Emmanuel Sharp's game. I think he comes from Kelvin Sampson's program in Houston, so he knows how to defend. He's a sharpshooter with a lot of size. He's 6'4", can kind of play him in that second guard spot, if not a forward spot, if you really need him to, going with a little bit smaller of a lineup. How about Emmanuel Sharp? Just saying. Or Jaden Bradley. How about Jaden Bradley? Jaden Bradley, people don't have him too high
those were
within their mock drafts,
guys
but
I
I
had on
thought the
my
way
day
he
two.
moved at Arizona, he showed star qualities with the ball in his hands as a
Those guys
scorer,
that were
sometimes as
players
a
I had
playmaker,
on
and
my
even
day two.
as a defender. He wasn't a nothing defender. I mean, it's why Arizona was one of the best teams in the country throughout the season. Jaden Bradley was very much a force in that. Jaden Bradley, Braden Burries in the backcourt. Arizona's number one option was Jaden Bradley. Yet you look at it, Braden Burries goes 10, which I think is correct. But why isn't Jaden Bradley considered higher on the boards? I know like some of the size, I think he's probably a worse defender than Burries. And considering his traits, you think he probably fits in with less teams than Burries. Like Burries could be a role player, whereas Jaden Bradley, what is his role player status? It's more likely Burries flourishes into an efficient role player
All right.
rather than say Jaden Bradley, and that's why he's down there. But Manuel Sharp, Jaden Bradley, both of those guys, just I would look at both of them if I were the Celtics. Just saying, in terms of
Yep.
best available, some sleepers here. Alex Caravan's always intrigued me because of his size and shooting ability. Defensively, I question, what is his ceiling there? He's almost like a Liam McNeely from last year. Oddly enough, they were on the
With the 26th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Denver Nuggets select Terrace Reed Jr. from the University of Connecticut.
We're alive. We're
Harris
alive.
Reed.
You know what? This has been the first
Here
time in
come
a
the
long
Celtics.
time that the guy that I want has made it to the Celtics pick.
Ah man, every time a Celtics pick comes around, my heart just
Yep.
beats a little faster. The blood
20,
pumps
20
a little
2 hours,
swifter.
2 hours 53 minutes, or 2 hours 55 minutes. We'll have. Oh no! Oh no! Oh wait, hold on. Oh, the
What?
Spurs have traded up for Terrace Reed Jr.
Oh, not going to the Nuggets. Spurs received the number 26 overall pick, Taurus Reed Jr. The Nuggets will receive the number 35 overall pick in tomorrow's second round and 2 future second round picks. So the Nuggets stacking their second round pick arsenal for Taurus Reed Jr. here from Connecticut. Woo, buddy. Woo, buddy. Here we go. Celtics up next. So you saw the trade alert come across. You went, oh no. I just saw the same thing. I went, oh, wait a minute. The Celtics.
All right.
What do we got here? What do we got?
Yep. Guard. Do not bring in a forward or a wing, or I swear. Do not bring in a forward or a wing. That is the last thing the Boston Celtics need on this roster right now is a forward or a wing. They need a guard, or at worst, they need a center. But I would rather address the center position either via free agency or via trade pool. Get your
Man,
guards and create a foundation of a young, sporadic player that could be coming off your bench and could be an actual scoring machine. That's the one thing the Boston Celtics just have not had, other than Peyton Pritchard, is just someone who can be an absolute scoring machine and can also contribute on both sides of the floor.
they didn't bring Simon's scoring machine, but defensively the ability wasn't there.
You need a six-man. You need a six-man if you're the Boston Celtics. A sixth and a seventh man. Those are the. And I don't see that player being available right now. Whatever player they're taking right now, I wouldn't even be shocked. Actually, want to know what the Celtics have been good about elevating their younger talent? We saw a lot more of Hugo Gonzalez than we even thought we were going to this season, but
man, 145 away from this pick. I don't want to say anything. Like, my thing is just don't pick Koa Pete. Don't pick Koa Pete, man.
The pick is in.
Koa Pete would be what are we doing?
All right,
here we go. Here we go, folks.
Let me see. No, I'm not going to do all that. I was going to. Chris Senak's looking pretty jumpity to get out of his seat.
Okay. Panning the camera over to him, just saying. All right, pick is in. I think I'm like way behind you. Got to tell me when he's coming up on stage here. Adam, where you at, Adam? All right, Chris Senak Jr. They're showing him on screen. Just gonna note that.
Isaiah Evans, they're showing him as well. Show my boy Malik Thomas. Actually, he's probably not even in the building.
We got to pick his in.
Okay.
Cue the Jeopardy music.
Okay. All right. Sure. Why not?
Cue the Jeopardy music.
You know what? Steal. I'll take it.
All right, here we go.
I'll take the steal.
Choose to fill them as we head back to the podium.
With the 27th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Chris Sunak Jr. from the University of Houston.
There we have
Steele?
There we have it. Chris
Steele?
Sunak Jr. out of Houston, who the Celtics will utilize as a big man next season.
Yeah.
We can tell you that much for sure. Luka Garza, watch out in the rotation. Chris Sunak is coming for that third big man spot. Amari Williams, all of a sudden, the Celtics, not a plethora of bigs, but more options at bigs than they owned last summer. And if they would have made this pick last summer, we would have been over the moon about it. We would have been, oh, they finally drafted a center. Oh, Porzingis is gone. Horford's going. Cornette's gone. They drafted a center. Last season, we would have been absolutely over the moon for this pick for the Celtics. Yet it comes a year later where the Celtics still in need of a big. If you really look at their rotation going into the offseason, the Celtics are still riding with Keita, still riding with Garza, still riding with Amari Williams as well. Nikola Vucevic is going to be a free agent, and the word is on the street, Vooch will walk away from the Celtics. So looking at it from that perspective, more size on the Celtics roster now. And somebody who can come in, it's going to be a great rebounder, score around the rim, freakish athlete as well for a center. And he is, I don't want to say he's an undersized center, but he's going to be in between a big forward and a center. And they're listing him as a forward, but he is 6'11" and a half. He's almost a 7 foot big guy. And given Brad Stevens' press conference, where at the end of the season he comes out and basically says the Celtics need to change up their style of play a little bit. Too many 3-pointers, too much perimeter play. The Celtics need to look towards the inside of the paint. They need to look towards the basket and find more opportunity to score around the rim. Chris Sunak Jr. does that for the Celtics. If you look at the makeup of the team now, ultimately, the Celtics, they're adding a player who's going to be able to change, I don't want to say change their style of play, but diversify it more so than another guard or another forward, such as you were saying, Franco, where you go, if you draft another forward, there's a little bit of a log jam there. You draft another guard, you want more of that, maybe, I don't want to say volume scorer off the bench, but somebody who can contribute offensively off the bench primarily. But if you're not going to go that route, if you're the Celtics, which to me, if they would have went with an offensive oriented guard, you're just cementing ever more so the play style of jacking threes on the perimeter. The end of the season press conference suggested the Celtics, and Brad Stevens specifically, he wants to look at building a roster that's more focused on physicality, scoring around the rim, rebounding, deterring shots, just being a bigger team overall. Like, yes, all of the 3-point shots are great. All of the perimeter play is great, but there's too much of that. There's too much redundancy out there. There needs to be more diversity in perimeter play and around the rim play. And picking Chris Sunak Jr. here does that for the Celtics. It diversifies the rotation a little bit further and gives the Celtics another big man option at 27. And I'll say to this too, is it's the 8-year anniversary of the Celtics selecting Robert Williams. Now, not to the day, but NBA draft wise, the 8-year anniversary of selecting Robert Williams 27th overall in the draft. And it was almost a similar story. Robert Williams was seen as a potential lottery pick, slipped in the draft due to injury concerns, mentality concerns. And one could say, Chris Sunak, there may be other reasons as to why he slipped, not exactly the same as Robert Williams, but the fact of the matter is both players slipped, and the Celtics are sitting there at 27 looking at a center going, look at this freakishly athletic center who could come in, develop in time, play real minutes, actually adds to a field of the team in need, and he's going to just fall to us here at 27. We don't have to move up.
Right.
We don't want to move down. And all of a sudden,
20.
Chris Sunak is a Boston Celtic the same way Robert Williams was. And Chris Sunak, he was, some people had him lottery range, but he was more in that, 15
I had him
to
at
20 range.
I had him at 20.
All of a sudden, he's going 27.
Yeah, a great slip, and I mean, I didn't anticipate him to be on the board, and I'm happy that my testament ran through that the Celtics cannot be adding more wings and forwards to this roster. Chris Senak is more of a 4-5 type of player, a versatile five that you can stick next to Demias Queta, who is going to be on a player option heading into the next season. I'm sure the Celtics are going to explore the possibilities of extending him, and also with Luca Garza still in the mix, and also Amari Williams also reaching a player option or a team option. Um, Also, did I say Cato was on a player option? He's on a team option. Correction. So you have all those two guys on team options heading into next off season. So I think that, or heading into this off season. So I think if you bring in Chris Sinak, a guy who can stretch the floor, also can play multiple positions, can play next to another center, while being a player who can play down low and can develop a I have to continue to do a little bit more film study on him, but I'm trying to think of a player that his game reminds me of, and the player that first came into my head when I first saw him was Harry Giles,
Okay.
but
I,
hopefully his career pans out better than his did.
We'll say about Sinek too is he's not much of a shooter, but there's shooting upside within his game. But he's got a long wingspan, and I think I mean, just looking at the type of player he is, clearly the Celtics looked at the OKC San Antonio series and then San Antonio making the finals and went, look at the size, the physicality out on the floor. You just look at the versatility in general with all these teams. The Celtics, yeah, there are some great players already in place from a versatility perspective of shooting on the perimeter, defending on one end of the floor, but the size just lacks for the Celtics. It just does. We saw it in that Sixers series. There were times in which it felt like
Will be
the
coming up
Celtics are
for you.
just getting bullied around the rim. And that's not, that was a trade of the Celtics earlier in the season before Jason Tatum returned to the lineup. And of course, Vooch came around. And I would still say that wasn't a strength of the team. You still like their big man core. The big man core was not like it was better than we all expected, but it wasn't a strength
You might
of the
have a pick
Celtics.
coming up.
This now ultimately, oh, nope, we missed it. It's okay. I'm going to keep talking about the Celtics anyway. Chris Sinak, it's a player in which the Celtics have not traditionally gone after in the early rounds of the draft. And past regimes led by Danny Ainge, of course, that's a little bit different. But even with Brad Stevens, we've seen Brad Stevens take a lot of guards, a lot of wings. And, there have been some big men in there like Anton Watson and Amari Williams last year, but those are usually later in the second round. But in the first round, per se, and even earlier in the draft, and then the late second round, this is a type of player the Celtics typically don't or haven't gone after. Yet now, looking at some of the size around the league, the versatility, you have Wemby in the league now, and you have teams gearing up to beat Wemby. You have all these sizable big men who can do many things. Chris Sinak, he certainly brings a certain level of physicality, size, around the rim presence, and even watching some of his tape, like he's not that bad of a shooter. Like his numbers don't suggest he's great of a shooter, but you look at his form, I definitely look at his fluidity on the perimeter and go, he's going to be able to develop a three-point shot in the NBA. I just think he's got a high release point, got long arms, he can shoot over guys. Again, he's pretty fluid in his movement on the perimeter. He's got, nice foot speed for his size. And also mention this, he's going from the University of Houston in Kelvin Sampson's organization under Kelvin Sampson's head coaching staff. And we all know every player who comes out of Kelvin Sampson's ring, they know how to defend. They just do. And he's going from the University of Houston now to the Boston Celtics. He's going from Kelvin Sampson to Joe Mazzulla. And I think that for any player, it's got to harden them, right? When you're playing for those two head coaches, you got to be a hard-nosed player. And that's who the Celtics are getting in Chris Sinak Jr. as well, as a player that played under Kelvin Sampson, proved he was a hard-nosed player, defensively capable, offensively in multiple respects. And then now it's going to be playing under Joe Mazzulla in Boston. That is going to be a player in which is going to answer to the standard of the Boston Celtics. You talked about it with Darren Peterson mostly earlier. You know, some of these other guys, they deserve conversation as well. But Darren Peterson, part of my concern for Peterson is not his ability, it's his personality. I look at Sinak, seeing the program he comes from and the program he's about to enter, that could be a guy who slots in and furthers the culture of the Celtics that's already been built by Joe Mazzulla, by a guy like Jaylen Brown, by a guy like Jason Tatum. We don't know if Jaylen Brown's going to even be there next year, just saying, but got to factor him in at this moment in time because
Still
we all
on the team.
know he's still a franchise pillar for the last 10 years. What can you say? But Chris Sinak Jr., welcome to the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. I mean, that's a key addition moving forward. I mean, I don't know if that solves the center position. If you re-sign Keita, does Keita, Sinak, and Garza work as a center room, or do you think that one more player would be required to fill that?
I am not. Keita, Garza, Sinak. Like Sinak's a rookie.
Yeah,
That's my thing. Like it adds to the Celtics roster from the like it adds to the Celtics diversity of what they're trying to do with their roster, but it doesn't do that immediately where you're just saying like, oh, Sinak's here, like great, our problems are solved. It furthers the problem, or not furthers the problem, but furthers the solving of the problem later on down the line. But in the meantime, it doesn't solve the problem entirely. That's what I would look at. That's how I would look at it personally.
Reported trade. Pick 29 is going to the Kings.
Which we actually, let me get this out of the way real quick. With who has the 28th overall pick?
That was the
nobody knows, okay? Nobody really knows. It was a Timberwolves, but then it was traded to
Joshua Jefferson.
Well, yeah, with the 28th overall pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Joshua Jefferson out of Iowa State. We're going to, I guess, gloss over that one because, well, you know what's funny is that's going to be the Jokic moment, isn't it? Joshua Jefferson's going to be a star, and I'm going to have the soundbite of Joshua Jefferson to a team that he's probably not even going to play for. We'll gloss over that one.
Yeah,
it says Brooklyn 28. I don't know who owns this pick. Minnesota?
I think so. I think it is Minnesota, which if it is Minnesota, that's a good pick for them, and that's a quick Julius Randle replacement.
I'm way behind on the ticker once again, folks. I swear. You get in with the analysis and you get paralysis. I don't know, whatever the word is for. I feel like the SpongeBob moment. Anybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. Trae Young and Devonta together. Cameron Carr. This is
Cleveland Cavaliers or the Kings. The Kings have taken an actually very eyebrow-raising pick here.
We have another trade to announce. As part of a deal to be finalized later, the Minnesota Timberwolves are trading to the Brooklyn Nets the draft rights to Joshua Jefferson, the 28th pick. And with the 29th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Alex Caravan from the University of Connecticut.
Interesting move by the Sacramento Kings for a team that's probably looking to get younger, drafting a guy that's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Caravan's older than me.
But so this is a
Hold
Kings
on.
pick.
Yep,
Who owns the 28th pick?
he was traded from the Cavaliers. And Alex Caravan. All right, I am. Yeah,
Denver
so
selected. No, Denver didn't select anybody. They traded away their pick.
just about our age.
Ooh, Denver. So the Knicks took Sergio De La Rea. Where is my taker? Dang. We got
Wizards view DeBonsa as transcendent prospect on par with Cooper Flag.
Of course, every team who's going to pick number 1 overall is going to think their prospect is on the level of someone else who was picked at relatively the same position. Okay, so the Spurs came away with Taurus Reed.
Yeah, we'll do a full read through of who's on who once this final pick is announced by Dallas.
Final pick of the night, folks. Final pick. UConn.
And there we go.
Chris Sinak, huh?
Ha! Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Dallas Mavericks are going to Dallas Maverick.
For real? Again? We're doing it again. Last pick of the night. Here we go, folks.
Second round, or to close it out, here's the commissioner.
With the 30th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Koa Pete from the University of Arizona.
Wow.
And that-
Wow. That's the end of the first round as Adam announces it. Well, this is someone I clearly didn't want the Celtics to take earlier at 27, and yet he goes 30th to the Dallas Mavericks, who have just proven to be maybe on the same level as the Kings, Pelicans, and Timberwolves when it comes to decisions made in the NBA transaction field. Wow.
Ugh.
I mean, that's just a shot in the dark. I mean,
Morez,
I understand, like, he came in as a hold up. Let's got one more player on the ticker here. But he's a player who people thought had NBA upside, but really looking at his jump shot at the NBA Combine, looking at his shooting ability overall, he's just not somebody who's going to be able to play in the NBA. Like, you can't play a player who doesn't have a jump shot, just period. You can't. Who's a forward, who's a 6'7" forward. You can't. For as great of a rebounder as somebody is, as forceful as they are in transition, it'd be great on defense. If you don't have a jump shot from anywhere, you can't score from anywhere. Your jump, like his jumper looks like this, man. I don't know where he fits in the NBA. And he's going
well, he
30 to
fits
the
on the
Dallas
Dallas Mavericks. That's where he fits. And after Morez, Johnson, Dusty, oh man, I just know I'm having premonitions to seeing people making fun of Dusty May and Morez Johnson and that whole I honestly think that tonight is worse for Dallas Mavericks. Just made Dallas Mavericks fans' depression even worse.
Koa Pete, man. Oh, let's see. I think we got everything right here on the ticker as we have finally made our way to the end of the 2026
First round.
first round. I was going to say NBA draft, but it's the first round. Just the first round, folks.
Imagine if we had
We
a
can
second
breathe.
round to cover too tonight.
That would have been terrible. That would have been, I mean, but I will say the first round I think goes by a little slower now, knowing there's only one round. So there's that. But yeah, we come to the end of the first round of the draft. The second round will be tomorrow. And the first round, now that it's behind us in its entirety, who are the winners and losers from this first round?
Well, let's.
Or should I read off first all 30 picks in round one, and then we can give our winners and losers and then dip on out of here?
Yeah,
the
we can
end.
do it that style. And I'm gonna promote my mock draft, and I'm gonna say who I had the team taking.
All right, so here's how the draft order went. Number 1 overall to the Washington Wizards, AJ DeBonsa. Darren Peterson, number 2 overall to the Utah Jazz. Cam Boozer, number 3 to the Memphis Grizzlies. Caleb Wilson, number 4 to the Chicago Bulls. Keaton Wagler, number 5 overall to the Los Angeles Clippers. Mikal Brown Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets at 6th overall. Darius A. Cup falling to the Sacramento Kings at 7. Kingston Flemings, 8th overall for the Hawks. Marez Johnson Jr. joining his former head coach at Michigan and now his current head coach with the Dallas Mavericks at 9th overall. Braden Burries, 10th overall to the Bucks. Yaxel Lindenberg lands in Golden State, 11th overall. Ade Mara winds up in OKC, 12th overall. 13th overall from the Miami Heat. The Milwaukee Bucks are picking because of that Giannis trade last night. Nate Ament falls to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I shouldn't say fall, but really slots right into their rotation. Hannes Steinbach, 14th overall to the Charlotte Hornets. Dalen Swain to the Chicago Bulls, 15th overall. Bennett Sturts to OKC, 16th overall. Ebuka Akori to the Detroit Pistons at 17, Christian Anderson at 18 to the Charlotte Hornets. Allen Graves heading up north to the Toronto Raptors at 19th overall. Jaden Quaintance, the San Antonio Spurs taking a flyer on Jaden Quaintance at 20. Kareem Lopez making his way down the board to the Memphis Grizzlies at 21. LeBaron Philon winding up in Philadelphia at 22. Zubi Ejiofor, 23 to the Hawks. Cameron Carr, 24 to the Lakers. Sergio De La Rea to the Knicks at 25, the defending champions. Fortunately, unfortunately for some people. Taurus Reed Jr., the Spurs trade up for him. Chris Sanak Jr. heading up, shipping up to Boston at 27 to the Celtics. Joshua Jefferson to the Brooklyn Nets at 28. Alex Caravan to the Kings at 29. And Koa Pete rounding out the first round at number 30 on his way to the Phoenix Suns, or the Mavericks? What's happening? I'm sure some of those teams weren't right. Just saying at the end of the day, folks. So gotta put a disclaimer within that. Gotta take everything we say here with a grain of salt of what team or timeout. Sources. Hold up. What? Whoa, 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 whoa.
Don't be coming in here with breaking news.
Brad Stevens is at the presser right now, but not that that's totally important for this live stream, but
not for this live stream, but for other ones.
Full trade details. Suns receive number 30 overall pick, Koa Pete. So Koa Pete heading to Phoenix. The Mavericks receive 3 future second round picks, one of which will be number 47 tomorrow. However, Okay, wait. Nope. This is from Legion Hoops. Legion Hoops doesn't have the full thing. Shams Charania, ESPN's NBA Insider, has the whole thing. Shams Charania states sources. New York traded the number 25 overall pick, Sergio De La Rea, to the Dallas Mavericks for the number 30th overall pick, Koa Pete, and 2 second-round picks. And then the Knicks traded Pete to the Phoenix Suns for 3 second-round picks and cash. So the Knicks move out of the first round, pick up 3 second rounds, 3 seconds in cash. So the Knicks trading away De La Rea to the Mavericks
Ha!
for Pete, and then Pete to the Suns for second-round picks.
Take that, Knicks. You don't get to enjoy my De La Rea.
Sacramento traded their own second-round pick in 2032 and number 34 tomorrow to move up to get Alex Caravan at 29. Sacramento, I guess.
I mean,
Ade Mara and Bennett Sturts for the Thunder. Man, you're gonna have people thinking Sam Presti's racist out here.
yeah, I mean,
Get out the mayonnaise, folks.
they got
Ade Mara and Bennett Sturts.
Topic,
Topic.
Sorber. I think that the fact that they have 4 lottery players on their roster right now from the past 13 years, is it, or not 13 years, 3 years, is just absolutely insane. And honestly, I think this NBA draft said more about what players are going to be hitting the free agency market than anything else for the NBA. I think we saw a lot of teams being like, instead of picking up Isaiah Hartenstein's $28 million player option, I'm just going to draft a Ade Mara who is going to make $4 million over the next 4 years and also be able to continue to grow and develop, and we can also turn him into an asset. I think that we saw a lot of players lose their jobs tonight.
Speaking of winners and losers, just going down the board here, I think the top 5 all winners tonight in their own respects for who they each received within this draft, all winners. Then you go down, Mikal Brown. See, okay, the Nets, I still question the Nets' direction. Do I think the Nets went forward or backwards? I think they got a better guard. Like, if you were to rank all the guards last year the Nets picked up versus Mikal Brown's the best guard. But did they move themselves further along within their timeline to the next championship? You can't say that definitively for the Nets. The Kings, I worry Acuff is just going to be this high-volume, small scoring guard for the Kings who's really good, but just brings them to only a level of playing contention, mediocrity, exactly, where you're not necessarily thinking Acuff is going to lead you to the number 1 seed, but he kind of puts a ceiling on your team to become maybe the 7th seed.
Western version of Trae Young, you're thinking?
I would say the Hawks tonight, Ejiofor and Fleming's, not a huge fan of those picks. I would have went with Burries at 8 instead, personally, if you're going to pick a guard, but that's just me. Perez Johnson, the Mavs, that's just, all right, we're letting Dusty May come in here and rule the roost here. I would say the Bucks. I love the Bucks picks at 10 and 13. Braden Burries and Nate Ament. I think those are 2 players who are going to develop well for the Bucks moving forward, and it really kicks off the start of the Bucks, their next era of time without Giannis. I think those are 2 great picks to build around, and potentially those are 2 starters later on down the line. The Bucks, we all know they don't have their centerpiece yet. Tyler Hero is not their centerpiece. Miles Turner is not their centerpiece. Neither of these guys are going to be their centerpiece, but to add around the margins, to add to the lineup within the last 24 hours, the Bucks have added 6 players to their roster and to their rotation. and 2 of them were Nate Ament and Braden Burries. And I thought those were picks in which they capitalized value on. When you have the 10th and 13th overall picks, they picked 2 players who could have easily gone 5 through 10 at the end of the day. So I love those picks. Ade Mara, I don't love the Yaxel Lindenberg pick for the Warriors just because I think it's more circumstantial than looking later on down the line. Like say in 4 years, they might look at that pick and go, yeah, there are better guys available, but we wanted Lindenberg to come in and play with a roster of older veterans, as we discussed earlier. So circumstantially, I like it for the Warriors, but in terms of what they're building into the future with, I'm not a huge fan of it. Mara, I actually love for OKC at 12. I think we're a little opposite on that. I think he's going to actually be just
Well, I
he's
didn't
going to
say I
add to
don't.
OKC right away. It's like Ade Mara's going to be in the conference finals next year, folks. Just pencil it in right now.
I don't not love it for OKC. I just question it with Sorber being on the roster as well.
That there's validity in that, and you'd even question like Holmgren, Hartenstein, Swarber, and now
yeah, I mean,
I'm
honestly
Mara,
counting Hartenstein as a free agent now. I'm officially counting Hartenstein as a free agent.
well, they're definitely declining that team option, but it just becomes very for the Thunder risky because you're sitting there thinking we're declining your team option. We want to sign you for more money in the future, but then there could be sentiment behind a player that says, well, you just cut me basically because I made too much money. Maybe I'm going elsewhere, but it becomes a market thing more than an emotional thing
why would
because
Hartenstein want to stick around there if he can? He can definitely get more money elsewhere.
2 things. Number one, if he can make the most money there, which we don't know if that's.
I doubt that's the case.
Right. He could make more money elsewhere for sure. And also, OKC, they're winners. Say he signs with the Kings, you might actually benefit by signing a long-term deal with the Thunder worth less than, say, a deal with the Kings if you're going from a winning situation where you're highlighted on NBC late into May, into June versus you're on the Kings, you're finishing in April. And you've seen like there have been multiple players whose careers they've just kind of died on the Kings, whether that's as a role player or as a young player. So I'd look at that, I'm saying the Kings, but like we don't know if the Kings are going to be signing Isaiah Hartenstein. But say a team like the Kings, right? Maybe a team like the Pacers comes out and offers something up for Hartenstein. Who knows? But well, they have Zubac now.
Yeah,
that was more of a last season thought. But going down the board here, Steinbach, not a huge fan of that pick at 14 for the Hornets. I think he's just going to be average. Like I don't really see a ton of upside with him in the NBA. Dalen Swain, I like that pick for the Bulls. I can see what he's going to be, and I think the Bulls, they went a direction of let's pick somebody who's going to come in and contribute almost right away versus other guys they've been very theoretical with, where it's like this guy isn't going to come in, he's raw, we need to develop him. I don't see a developmental path within Swain the Bulls need to partake in. Now, of course, with a young player, any of these young players need development, but Swain, he comes in with a set skill set that you feel comfortable with if you're the Bulls, blossoming into what could be a nice role player alongside, tonight you did pick up Caleb Wilson, you have Josh Giddey. Those are your 2 bright spots. The Bulls still a long way to go in building their roster, but Swain feels like a guy that he's not a star, but he's going to come in and actually fulfill a role playing position for the Bulls. But Bennett Sturts at 16, love that. I don't love that he's going to the Thunder because I think he could be utilized elsewhere. I think he's with Sturts, this could be a guy later on down the line they look at and go, his career benefited from him being drafted by the Thunder because he was around all these great guards and all these, guards who are versatile on both ends of the floor. You could say his career benefits from going to a winner and now playing around all these great guards. But I also think Sturts, there could have been teams that really start to ramp up his minutes next season. And I just don't think he's going to get too much of a burn on OKC, which makes me question that pick right there for OKC, just a little bit of that seems like more of a guy you're going to stash in your lineup, even behind like a Topic. You already have Topic out there he hasn't even played yet. So you could say tonight, OKC, they picked Topic and Sorber the last couple of years, and then tonight they picked Mara and Sturts. Mara and Sturts are almost like the second version of Sorber and Topic to a certain degree.
Right.
So, but I think there's more upside for Mara playing because, like, if I were to guess, the guys who are going to receive the most minutes, it's going to be Mara and Topic. Sorber
we got
and
a
Sturts are going to be
we got a Brad
relegated.
Stevens quote if we want to read it.
What do we got?
From my source is, or quote is from Bob Manning, found from Finn Sands, Celtics insider. Brad Stevens just now, and quote, Jaylen Brown's a big part of us. I'm never going to predict the future. You never know. But the one thing I want to make clear is how valued he is.
Jaylen Brown's brother just posted a video on his Instagram.
Uh-oh.
So I'm watching the video now to see what's in this. I think this video states. So this video is not like a shot at the Celtics. It's literally Brown and Tatum. They've been guys for life. Well, they're guys for life, basically. Well, that's what I'm reading from it a little bit. Well, yeah, so Jaylen Brown's brother posted a good video, positive. It's Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum montage where both of them are friends and the best of friends in the world. So that's actually a good thing for the Celtics. So in terms of that, good news.
Yeah, we'll take it. Well, I know what, when we'll dive deeper into. We got a whole off season now. Now that the draft's not over, we're halfway through the draft. But once that comes along, then we can start really diving deep into where these Jaylen Brown discussions beyond Giannis lie.
I think that'll be the conversation now moving forward for the next couple of, I shouldn't say the next couple of weeks, but the next week leading into free agency.
Around here, we're going to try to keep your content fresh. We're not going to try to stick around on the same topics for too long, even though Giannis, we had way too much fun with Giannis. But you had to cash in on that. But as the offseason starts to roll in, we're going to start to mix in some NBA. Well, we're already mixing in NBA as we speak. NFL, NHL. We got the World Cup elimination rounds coming up very soon. A lot of great stuff on our docket coming up.
Oh yes, we do. But just to finish this out here, in terms of the first round tonight, going down the first round, the last couple of picks here. 17, Corey to the Pistons. Not a huge fan of that. Small guard. Christian Anderson to the Hornets, another small guard. It's like, did you need the ball handling, the small guys? I'm not really sure. I would have taken, for me personally, Allen Graves, 19th overall to the Raptors. I feel as if that's going to be a steal in the future. I don't think he's going to be a star, but I think he's going to be a pretty good role player who plays right away, and people are going to go, how did a 6'9" guy who's a sharpshooter, who can defend, how did he fall this far? Behind some of these guards and some of these theoretical guys that
this is going to be one of those drafts
maybe you don't know how he fits.
It feels like this is going to be one of those drafts that we're going to be looking back at in about 5 years, being like, how did this guy get taken before this guy? I
think that's every draft, but
no, it feels more. I feel like that it's crazy to feel like that in the moment while I'm watching the draft. I'm like, in 5 years, I'm gonna know that's a bad pick, and I'm gonna be certain about it.
Well, I just think like something like if I'm going down the board, it's just like some teams definitely went more like, oh, we want the size more than the theory. Then some teams went, you know what, hell with the size. We're going with the theoretical guys here. Like Quayton's at 20. That's a flyer for the Spurs. That's like this guy's sizable. He's had knee injuries in the past, but we just made it to the finals, and he's not going to be a major piece of the team next year. But who knows what he could blossom into in the future? Kareem Lopez, 21. The size there. Phylon dropping as far as he did to 22. Like those three picks, I understand. Like nine, if we're really going down here, Wizards first. Well, actually, first. Wizards first overall. Love the pick. Jazz second overall. Love the pick. Grizzlies third. Love the pick. Bulls fourth. Love the pick. Clippers fifth. Love the pick. And when I say love the pick, like, okay, I don't love the Darren Peterson pick necessarily. Like, I would pick him after these guys, but at the same time,
You understand it.
like, right, you know, you're picking DeBonsa, Peterson, Boozer, Wilson. Okay, now I would have personally, if I were the Jazz, like circumstantially, you're kind of cornered into Peterson, but I would have liked Boozer over him, just personally. Mikal Brown, I'm a little sus with going to the Nets. Just saying, I like his upside, but I'm a little sus if it's going to be actually brought out with the Brooklyn Nets. I like the Kings pick for a cup, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I just with the Kings specifically, I'm like, there just seems like there's a lot of mediocrity coming there. Kingston Flemings, I'm not. I think it's a solid pick at 8. I'm not gonna say it's the best pick in the world. It's solid. Morez Johnson, not a huge fan of that pick at 9, especially when you pass up on Burries, Mara, Ament, some of those guys. Burries at 10 though, love that pick. Lindeberg at 11. Not a huge fan of the player, but I understand the circumstance. Ade Mara, love that pick at 12. Ament, love that pick at 13. Hornets 14, not a huge fan. Bulls 15, Swain, I like it, but it's not like a home run hitting pick necessarily. Sturts I like at 16. Prospect wise, doesn't make a ton of sense for OKC in the meantime, but in the future, I think it'll make sense. 17 and 18, not a huge fan of a Corey and Anderson at 17 and 18, especially when you consider Graves, Quaintance, Lopez, and Phylon went after those guys. But the Hornets and the Pistons, not a huge fan. Graves, big fan of that pick at 19. Quaintance, I like that pick because the Spurs circumstantially went, let's take a swing at a home run here. And that's what you do when you just make the finals and you think, all right, this guy could be a top 10 player from this draft if he actually pans out from what he was before his knee injury. Kareem Lopez, 21, I think that makes some sense for the Grizzlies, adding some more versatility to their roster and all around play from a forward. Phylon, 22, drops all the way to Philly. I like the pick for Philly because they're taking the best available and somebody who shouldn't have fell this far. But at the same time, I look at Philly and go, you just traded away Jared McCain because there were too many guards, and then you go and draft a guard in the first round here. So I just rip to the Philadelphia 76ers in that regard. Ejiofor, not a huge fan of that pick at 23 because Ejiofor, I just think he has big man qualities, but he's really a forward or really has the size of a forward. And I just, that translates a little wonky to the NBA. I like Cameron Carr to the Lakers at 24. I think that was a good pick for the Lakers. I think he fell a little bit too far. I think he's going to be a versatile all-around role player. Sergio De La Rey, I'm a little conflicted on what is, I think he has some good upside, but I do wonder like some of his best traits with the ball in his hands. When I see him go downhill, I think he needs to add another level of fluidity to his game. But it's not a bad pick for the Knicks at 25. Taurus Reed for the Spurs at 26. I like that pick. Chris Sinak for the Celtics. I like that pick too. I love that pick. I mean, I wasn't a huge Sinak guy going into the draft, but I'm thinking of him around the range of 15 to 20. Whereas the Celtics get him at 27, and he's a definitive place of need for the Celtics, fills in a definitive place of need. That's a guy that's a pick that I would say the Celtics hit on, or at least at this point in time, we think they could hit on. Joshua Jefferson at I don't even know what team he's going to, so I can't really say that I like that pick or not. Again, he's probably going to be the Nikola Jokic in this draft. Sorry, Joshua Jefferson. Just sorry about the lack of knowledge as to what exactly went on with your draft night, Joshua Jefferson, as the Celtics were before your pick. But Alex Caravan going to the Kings, I would have liked to see him in a different destination. Anytime you see a player going towards the Kings route, and even an older player, I just wonder, like, what are the Kings actually doing there? Not a huge fan of that pick. And then Koa Pete, we all know how I feel about him. If you don't have a jumper, you're not playing in the NBA, and Koa Pete doesn't have a jumper. So not a huge fan of that pick for the Suns at the end of the first round. And they traded away 3 second-round picks for him, basically. So that's what we got, or 2 second-round picks, whatever it was. Doesn't really matter. But that's what we got for the first round of the NBA draft. Franco, tomorrow's the second round.
Keep on sliding, Malik. We're at 40. We'll come and get you.
Yep, Celtics picking 40th overall tomorrow in the 2026 NBA draft. But as we close off here, any last words here for what happened tonight? Any last themes of the night here?
Themes of the night. I think tonight's theme was really tonight's theme was more of just obscurity in a lot of these picks and a lot of the team's thinking as you ran through. Obviously, we saw a lot of players that were differently ranked, and obviously we're starting to see NBA scouting as itself become a little bit more subjective per se. You're seeing players who one or a majority of people, ESPN consensus, a Fanspo consensus, a hoops hype consensus, may differentiate from what a team is actually valuing and what they're trying to accomplish. But sometimes I think those can, I think this is going to be one of those years that we're going to be like, these teams that are going against the grain are going to learn why that the grain exists. You're supposed to go with the grain and work with the flow of things. And when you go against it, you're going to end up in a tougher situation. And we saw a lot of teams make questionable decisions on players that could have ended up being core pieces, but deciding to just move off of them. And also, my final take is fix the damn hats.
I think that's the biggest theme or take of the night is somehow, some way, we're like, I don't know, 30, 40 years into this of just giving players the wrong hats on draft night. And I shouldn't say the wrong hats because from a transactional perspective, it's the right hats that they got to be totally correct. But it really does make it a little confusing when we're covering the draft and, you know, it's going along and we're trying to analyze the pick that was just made, but then there's a trade and then the player has the wrong hat and you're going, wait, oh no, he's going to the Heat. Oh no, wait, he's going to the Bucks. Oh wait, this player, he's wearing a Lakers hat. Wait, he's going to the Knicks. Oh no, wait, that player's not going to the Knicks. He's going to the Grizzlies. You're like, I mean, it's literally like, oh, if you were just to take away the logos and just put them in red or yellow or green, you're like, oh, this player is going to red team. Oh, wait, no, he's green. It says red, but I'm supposed to say green. Messes with your mind, folks. And
Right.
If you're colorblind, you're not even going to be able to say what I just said.
Yeah,
So looking at it from that perspective, surely. But that is going to bring us rather to the end of our 2026 NBA draft watch along for the first round. Tomorrow is the second round, of course, but the first round here tonight happening for the NBA. And now I just feel like information overload here, Franco. Information overload. Just absolutely insane night once again for the NBA draft. It was like this last year. I think this year there was a little more, like last year's experience helped a little bit, knowing like, all right, like the ticker, like, get it situated, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. But anyway, that is going to bring it to the end, though, for us tonight, covering the 2026 NBA draft in the first round. Of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Forever Green Sports. Social medias on Instagram, of course, on YouTube, where you're watching now, at Forever Green Sports. And don't forget to go check out, too, Celtics.everyday on Instagram, myself, and Words from Seamus Zarlingo on Substack. But that is going to do it for us here tonight on the Forever Green Sports Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, alongside of me, Nick Franco. And as we always say, thank you all for watching, and go Forever Green, baby. Go
Yeah.
Forever Green.